ready. Or you could just go and tell them. Since you've got to get rained on anyway.
Good evening. Welcome to the August 3rd regular meeting of the Township of Montclair Planning Board. In accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 72 of New Jersey's Public Laws of 2025, and amendments to Section 12 of the Municipal Land Use Law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building, on the Township of Montclair's official internet website, and on the statewide legal notice listings of the New Jersey Department of State. Excuse me. This meeting is being broadcast live on Channel 34 and is streaming live and will be available on demand on YouTube. This meeting is a quasi-judicial proceeding, meaning the board has powers and procedures resembling a court of law, and we are obligated to objectively determine facts and draw conclusions from them in order to provide the basis of an official action. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues or what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and the decorum appropriate to judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Fire exits are to my right, your left, and the back of the room. As to the order of the evening, each application hearing begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application and the variances that are required, if any. We then hear from any expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why variances are required. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, the attorney, and their expert witnesses. If you are a member of the interested public, but not a witness in the case, you will have 2 opportunities to speak. At the end of each witness's testimony, you will be given the opportunity to ask the witness questions about his or her testimony. That is not the time to tell the board what you think of the application. To ask questions, you'll have to come to the front of the room, give us your name and address, and then ask your questions related to the witness's testimony only. After the applicant's witnesses and any objector or objector witnesses have been heard, members of the audience will have their second opportunity to step forward. At that time, you may express your opinions, positive or negative, about the application. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per person. An additional time that the public may be heard is when one or more residents present to the board as an objector to the application. Present to the board as an objector to the application. Objectors may be represented by counsel and present their cases, including independent evidence and witnesses for the board to consider after the applicant has finished its case. Different from public comment, objectors and their witnesses are expected to present evidence for the board to consider, as opposed to only their personal opinions, and will be subject to cross-examination by the public and by the applicant. After the completion of the applicant's case, the objector's case, and any public comment, the public hearing is closed, and the board members discuss the case and vote. You will be able to listen to our discussion, but you will not be able to participate. Do a roll call.
Yep. Mayor Baskerville.
Present.
Mr. Borshoff is excused. Mr. Campbell is excused. Counselor D'Amato is excused. Ms. Gaines.
Present.
Vice Chair Graham is excused. Mr. Ian Wally.
Here.
Ms. Willis.
Here.
Mr. Orbea.
Present.
Ms. Wallace.
Here.
And Chair Brodock is excused. Okay.
I apologize. I don't have the agenda.
Oh,
I have a copy of it.
We need to swear in the professionals first. That's first up on the agenda.
Okay, so can you please swear in the individuals?
Tony, I would be happy to. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you may give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you both.
All right, next is, it's the resolution for High Hills.
Thank you so much.
Oh, the minutes.
Yep, approval of minutes from July 20th.
I did not receive any comments on the minutes.
That's good. Brodock's on vacation.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Was I at that meeting?
I wasn't.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Is there a
I guess
second?
I can second it.
Yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Yep. Got it.
And number 5 on the agenda is application 2973, 586 Bloomfield Avenue, High Hills, New Jersey, LLC. It's the resolution that we have to review and approve. Janice, you have, I guess, no comments on that as well?
I didn't receive any comments on this resolution. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Next on the agenda is application 2945, 580 Valley Road, BG Valley LLC.
Good evening, everyone. Alan Trembulac, appearing on behalf of the applicant, BG Valley LLC. As you know, this is a continuation of the hearing on the application for site plan approval involving the property at 580 Valley Road. What we have planned for this evening, as was, I think, previously discussed at the last meeting, is we have testimony to present from our civil engineer, Gerard Gesario, previously testified earlier in the hearing, and he'll discuss the recent site plan revisions and some other comments related to civil engineering matters. And then following his testimony, we have supplemental testimony from our traffic engineer, Matthew Seckler, regarding, his analysis of available parking resources in the vicinity of the property, and also his supplemental letter report dated July 23rd, 2026, which I believe the board has. After that, we would adjourn for this evening, and which will leave us with one final witness, which would be our professional planner, Peter Steck. And I believe, and Janice, correct me if I'm wrong, but has it already been decided that Mr. Steck would testify on September 14th?
If that's, if that's the date that works for you
Yes.
and him, then you'll,
Most importantly, it works for Mr. Steck.
Yeah.
It's
I'll
not easy.
put you on
So,
for the September 14th meeting. Okay.
That would conclude our witnesses and hopefully conclude the application that evening. So, before I call Mr. Gesario, I assume, Janice, you probably want to mark some
Yes,
recent exhibits.
I've marked some additional exhibits. If I can read my handwriting here. A30 is a letter from Jamal Keisel dated July 22nd, 2026, summarizing their response to our professionals' comments. A31 is a revised site plan prepared by Jamal Keisel dated July 22nd, 2026.
Oh, you okay?
A32 is a report from Stonefield Engineering on an updated parking report dated July 23rd, 2026. And A33 is a revised report from Neglia Engineering dated July 27th, 2026.
Okay. So I would recall Gerard Gesario.
Mr. Gesario, you recognize that you remain under oath from your prior testimony, correct?
I do.
Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Gesario, you recently have submitted revised site plan drawings for this project, I believe with a revision date of July 22nd, 2026. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. What I'd like you to do is to review the changes depicted on the revised plans, and I don't think there are that many.
Correct.
If you could go through the changes shown on those plans
Sure.
for the board.
The July 22nd plans were revised to address comments in Neglia's May 29th, 2026 review letter. And again, there were not many drawing changes required. A couple of the comments dealt with the proposed compact stall parking space. We were requested to add some additional signage, some pavement markings, and we also provided a turning analysis to show a compact car coming in and making the turn into that compact space. Another item was relative to the stormwater. We'd been requested to collect additional runoff that was running towards the retaining wall in the rear, the existing retaining wall. So we added a slot drain or trench drain along the back that will collect it and redirect the stormwater into our proposed infiltration basin. The last change is related to the lighting plan. We had a couple of waivers with the prior plans, so we redid the lighting. Several things changed. One, we added the decorative sconces to the front to include that in the analysis. Two, we relocated the pole that was sitting along that wall in the back. There was a waiver because we didn't have 2 feet clearance from the back of the curb. So there's no longer a light pole along the rear of those parking spaces. With the new model, we were able to get the light levels between the 0.5 minimum and 2.0 maximum within the site, eliminating the prior waiver for having some levels below 0.5 and exceeding 2.0.
So the revised lighting plan then is compliant with the town's requirements in the lighting ordinance or the site plan ordinance dealing with lighting?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Is the applicant still seeking any kind of waiver?
I don't think we need any.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
So
I
these
believe that
changes
eliminates
eliminate all need for waiver?
For the
Light.
lighting, yes.
Lighting,
Yes.
are there any other waivers?
I believe there were, just check my notes. I think
There may be one more, and I'm missing it.
it's a waiver. I know we exceed lot coverage. That might be a variance.
Might be a waiver for the parking space dimensions.
Yes.
Oh, the compact stall is still,
Well, that,
Right.
and
yeah,
then,
yes. So there are still waivers. The lighting waivers were eliminated.
Thank you.
I want to come back to the stormwater in
Sure.
a minute, but just a question. Do your revised site plans show any changes with respect to the pedestrian crossing that runs across the drive aisle towards the rear of the property?
No, that has not changed from our prior submission.
Okay. And did you review the comments in Mr. Giosa's report, the parking consultant for the town, relating to the his concerns regarding that crosswalk?
Yes, we did, and I think in our response, we recognize that it's not an ideal situation, but it occurs frequently in shopping centers, retail centers, everywhere where people have to walk behind cars that are parked. Knowing that, you have to proceed with caution.
Okay.
So we recognize it's not ideal, but we also stated that it's common in retail centers.
Did you bring with you any exhibits relating to
I
that?
do. I have a
particular
couple
issue?
of handouts to show that our original location of the public access and kind of a hybrid that we can look at if we want to mark these as exhibits. And
All right, so are there 2 exhibits?
one is our original submission, which basically showed the sidewalk where it is today, and then we cross over, connect to it. That was requested to be changed at the Development Review Committee meeting to push it onto our side, and that's how we ended up with the crosswalk that's on the current plans.
So does this show what was originally, the
That-
original plan?
Correct. This exhibit is the original plan.
Okay. And then the second one, which is on 8.5 by 11 paper,
It's kind of an option for consideration. It's kind of a hybrid of the original and what we have today. Yeah, I don't need them.
All right, I have,
Mr. Tremblay, should they be marked separately?
I think so.
Okay.
This would be the first one.
I would do the first one.
As A34,
834, yes.
and that one is the original?
The original submission is 834. And the optional alignment is 835.
What does he need a copy for?
Mr. Giosa, do you want to take a look at this? Do you have an extra copy for?
Ms. Wallace, do you have extras down there?
You know, you and I will share this. Okay. They're sharing. Do you have an extra, can you pass this to Nicole? Okay. I have a question about 835. It appears that part of the proposed sidewalk is on the fire station property?
Yes, it would direct people across and then over to get them out of the drive lane.
Because keeping it on your property would make the driveway too narrow?
Correct.
Okay.
Why don't you,
Can they talk through these drawings?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just, I wanted to make sure I understood what I was seeing.
So, just,
why don't you just
Yeah.
go discuss each of the two exhibits separately and explain what they show, starting with A34, which I think you said was the original
yeah, 834,
plan.
it's the one with the yellow highlight. That was the original plan that shows the walk on the, just for clarification, it's on the fire station side, but it is still on the applicant's property. And that was the one at the DRC meeting. It was requested that we move the sidewalk to the buildings, adjacent to the building, and continue the connection to the stairs. A35 is kind of a hybrid of what we currently have proposed, which is call it the diagonal crosswalk, which was raised as a concern in the parking review memo. So that comes across, and then heads towards the stairs. But I believe that is still on, no, that would be on the other property, Dave, because it's planned north of the stairs, this piece. So, yeah, it would be on fire property. Our proposal would be just to stripe it as a crosswalk.
Yeah,
You're
you have,
showing that as a potential
That's an
alternative.
correct. We think what we have is okay. It's signed, it's clearly marked. Whether you're parked in that last space or the first space, you should know that there could be people walking behind you, and you have to proceed with caution, just like any parking space.
I'm not following what's on the firehouse property because, well, actually, what is the red line?
That's
What is-
the proposed crosswalk in lieu of the
Oh,
diagonal
I see, to
line.
go around the
Right.
diagonal.
So
Okay.
that top piece
Got
would
it.
be on their property.
Well, people will, this is a comment, they'll take the shortest distance, they'll probably walk the diagonal anyway.
Agreed.
I mean,
Agreed, and that's why we think what we show is best, because at least it'll be delineated that way and signed.
I'm not an expert, but that's what I would do. I would,
We agree.
I don't know if anyone,
I have a question. What I'm finding a little awkward here is where the stop bar is. The stop sign, or am I looking at, I'm looking at 835 where the stop sign is located. The stop sign is, I don't know, 15 feet in front of the stop bar? Is there any way, I have a feeling people just roll through that stop bar.
We could add another sign to the left
Yeah, I guess
and the walkway.
I'm just trying to be practical.
Yeah, we could add a second sign.
Maybe that would help if you put a sign somewhere in the sidewalk on the left side so people actually stop at the stop bar
Yeah.
or slow down as they approach that crosswalk.
Yeah, the idea was, one, they would stop there, and two, in case they did roll through that, hopefully they see the stop sign
Right.
and stop before the crosswalk.
Mr. Gesario, what was the, if you know, what was the rationale? It was the DRC who recommended moving the entire sidewalk from the fire station side to the building, to adjacent to, what was the rationale?
I believe, and Janice can correct me if I'm wrong, that sidewalk, that's where the sidewalk is today, and it continues to be in disrepair from trucks
Because
driving over it.
Cars associated with the fire station constantly drive over that sidewalk.
So that's been gone into disrepair. That was the primary reason?
Because in maneuvering in and out of the fire station, they were going across the sidewalk, which was on their property. So moving it next to the building would make it easier to access the parking area and the driveway for the fire station, and I think would be a more natural access point to the front of this building.
The thought was also to reduce the number of crossings
Yeah.
for visitors accessing the site from Valley Road. The previous layout would force everyone to cross the driveway
Right.
coming down from Valley Road versus the current layout where the sidewalk is along the building. If you're coming from Valley Road walking down the driveway, you don't have to cross the driveway to get into the building. So that was one point. The other point was where the crossing started in the parking lot side, it was directly behind the building, so it created like a blind spot. If you're a pedestrian about to cross the driveway going towards the firehouse, you wouldn't see a car coming down the driveway, neither would the driver see a pedestrian coming. So that was the other major consideration to kind of rearrange that layout, so.
I hear that, and I don't necessarily have a strong feeling about the sidewalk on one side or the other, but just acknowledging that this original drawing, the one with the yellow and the sidewalk along the fire station, is when they didn't have a front door on Valley. So now presumably, if you're coming down Valley, you'll just walk and enter at the front door and not necessarily go around to the back of the building, right? I mean, they said they're, we require your front entrance, so I don't know why, if you're a pedestrian coming down, walking on the sidewalk on Valley, why you go to the back of the building at all.
Yep.
Which doesn't change it coming from the parking lot and behind, but I don't think, yeah, I would just go to the front door.
Is there anything else you want to add regarding either of those exhibits?
No, I have nothing further.
What about, would you consider like the pedestrian flashing lights so someone could hit them? Would that be helpful for a car backing up?
Car back.
Like in this first spot, if they're backing up and they might see a flashing light?
I mean, you can do a lot of, I don't think it's necessary. Again, I don't see any different backing up from that spot than any other spot. There's a potential for pedestrians to be behind you. You have to look. You can't put a flashing light behind every spot. I don't think it's warranted.
Just so the record is clear, this A35 is really just an optional for the board to consider.
Correct.
But your plan is your plan at this point.
And our plan, we think, works just fine.
Okay, just to clarify, I didn't write down the numbers. Which is the plan?
That's 35. In
This
your
is
right
30.
hand,
So
that's
this is-
35. That's the optional.
That's the optional one. If not, they're going with the sidewalk one on the firehouse side.
No,
No.
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 Oh, then, well, we have this.
A34, that was the original
The
plan.
original one, oh, okay.
But then they amended it for comments from the DRC.
Oh, I see. So A35, if the option is to add the angled walkway, got it, I understand, okay.
Should also point out that the client just mentioned that if the board, given the redesign of the building with the front entrance now, if the board thought that keeping the sidewalk where we're shown on our original plan, meaning closer to the fire property, if the board preferred that, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, well, I think we discussed that when, I remember asking a question about will there be a smooth transition for cars that are going to be using the parking temporarily? And to drive, I mean, I imagine if you have a sidewalk, there's probably a curb. Most sidewalks have curbs, right, unless it were level. So all it would be just a change in pavement. So a change in pavement doesn't protect a pedestrian as much as a curb. If there's a curb there, it's pretty defined. Is the sidewalk next to the building, does that have a curb, or is it just flat?
It has a curve.
That has a curb,
Yes.
okay. So that's a bit more protected. And then if you put the sidewalk down on, the original plan, then you've got essentially a flat surface, and just part of it's concrete. That's the only difference.
That's
It's
correct.
an open area, and part of it's concrete,
Correct.
over which fire department vehicles during certain times of the day will be crossing over.
So that is a part of this plan. That is the fire department access or across the property line is a part of the plan as you've constructed. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is there a grade change between the driveway on your site and the driveway on the fire department side?
No, we tie in with their grades.
So it's going to be a flat, and you could just drive over it?
That's correct. I think we talked about adding a stripe, something to delineate it, but
Because I don't see anything on the plan about that. That's why I'm asking.
I believe there was discussion about potentially adding a stripe just to physically show separation between the properties, but no other feature.
Mr. Chair, if I may too, just looking further at the most recent plan that was submitted, there's also one other limiting factor regarding the potential of flipping the sidewalk back along the fire department side. The applicant has provided vehicle turning movement templates showing the access of that first compact parking space that we discussed earlier. However, to facilitate that movement, the vehicle needs to take a rather wide turn around that corner where the crossing is, which would require crossing into where the sidewalk would would be. So I think there's an inherent conflict there where you would be mixing vehicles and pedestrians in that instance. So I would shy against moving it over to that side at that point, unless there's an alternative way to access that parking space, but I don't think there is.
So the board needs to make a determination now at this point, and then we move on, right? Just put this behind us if we, okay. So I'll make a proposition that we use the diagonal walkway that has no sidewalk. The sidewalk's on the building side, and that there is a stripe put down the middle, because I think delineating the space is probably good, because that would tell people, you know, this is your lane to drive in, and if you cross that line, you're coming in on the fire department property. If that line wasn't there, they might feel it was okay to park on the fire department property. So I think it helps. That stripe, I think, would help.
So you're indicating that 8034
No.
is
No.
It's this one without the diagonal crosswalk.
maintaining the diagonal.
Yeah.
With a sidewalk on the
Right.
fire department.
No.
It's
Keep the
plans you
sidewalk
have
along the
before you.
building.
Right, but not.
Right.
That's,
Keeping it as is, as proposed.
No,
it's
not
key-
putting the
it-
red.
That's
yeah.
the way, it's the existing site plan.
The existing, keep the existing, yeah.
It's the-
Right.
That would be maintaining the
that.
existing lights, site plan, but adding
Right.
a stripe
Yeah.
along the property line.
Adding a stripe, yes, which I believe was discussed but never really agreed upon, which, so now we're including that.
What do you envision for that stripe?
Not a big decision.
No, but I
I
mean,
know.
it
I
is,
just-
knock it out, like you said,
Okay.
let's talk about
All
that,
right.
get that out, right?
Okay, is this everything, actually, ask Noberto, with all the questions that you had about capacity of the drainage system to handle runoff and so forth, are you satisfied with the design that he's put forth?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that would give you pause, related, you have your last comment letter, well, actually, answers came in, and you put comments down on the July 27th revision 4. You think we covered everything
Yes, at this
tonight?
point.
Okay, I guess we're good with civil.
Can I have a few more items? Are you confident about this compact turn radius? If, let's say a car is parking here, SUV, for example, are you confident a car can make that turn as
Well,
they?
an SUV, no, but,
No, not, let's say an SUV is parked here.
oh,
So it's big, you can't go over this line. Can, a compact car make that turn into that spot in one movement?
We provided a.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen, that's why I'm asking.
It's part of
Yeah,
the
it-
plan set.
And I'm not an engineer,
Yeah.
so.
there is an illustration showed on sheet C-950,
Okay.
which is also the last sheet of the civil engineering plan set. Actually shows two illustrations. One is a compact car accessing that compact parking space, and a more standard vehicle, actually it's a Sprinter van, just doing a general movement
Okay.
in and through the site. These are generally, as they're modeled, they're conservative.
Okay.
So a typical experienced driver can probably make the turns a little tighter as needed and adjust. So I'm comfortable with it.
Secondly, and you didn't testify this, but we did talk about it in May. There's still not changes made to the landscaping plan that were agreed to. There's still sort of invasive non-native, and you still have a tree proposed for right in front of the front door on Valley. Are you sticking with those?
The tree in the front, we're willing to relocate and work with
Can
the
you-
city.
Can
on
you,
that.
I would like
That-
to see a rendering of where that tree would be and how it would look.
We have to
before-
assess the utilities and.
Okay. Can you
work
do
with
that
the city.
prior to September meeting?
I think we can.
Well, I mean, we would agree to relocate the tree.
I just question if, the whole point is you put it there because of all the underground utilities, so either there's a room to locate it or not, but having it in front of the front door, we talked about this in May, it's August.
We agree
So,
that it should be relocated.
I know, I would like to see, I think it's reasonable to see where you're locating it, given that there's constraints about where you could locate it.
Would you be able to determine where the utilities are in order to determine where an appropriate alternate location would be for a tree in front of the property.
Yes.
And then the laurel is also, we talked about that in May, it's still on the plan.
I thought we addressed
The cherry laurel, it wasn't addressed to me. I know we talked about it in May, and you had agreed you would look at a native option for that. Again, you can come back and provide an alternate.
It's you want an option, a native option.
Well,
for-
it's not just.
For the cherry laurel.
Yeah, it actually has like toxic berries in it. I just don't think it's the best plant one could pick
Okay.
for a swim school. And it's a non-native.
We have no problem.
Okay, it's, as I brought up in May, I'm just reiterating it as it hasn't changed. Thank you.
Bef- just- I just want to, I know we touched upon stormwater a minute ago, and you talked about adding the trench drain in the rear of the property in front of the retaining wall to capture more water on site. But can you, I think in light of some recent storm events that we've had locally, today not so bad, last week, I think it was last week, some serious flooding in Upper Montclair. In light of that, can you just briefly reiterate what's proposed for this property in the way of drainage and stormwater management improvements?
Sure. First note is that there is no stormwater on site currently. This entire site drains, sheet flows directly to the municipal parking lot in the rear.
So no stormwater is captured on site currently?
None at all.
Okay.
What's proposed is an underground infiltration system. Basically, it's going to collect now with the trench drain we've added probably over 90% of the site, all the roof drain and now the pavement going towards that wall. So now we're collecting over 90% of the site and bringing it into our proposed infiltration basin. The requirement, so I get my numbers right from my original testimony, the requirement per the ordinance is that we only need to maintain or manage 736 cubic feet of runoff on site. What we're proposing is a system that has 3,794 cubic feet of storage volume. So that's greater than 5 times what is required by code. To put it in terms of numbers, that system can handle about 4 inches of runoff over this entire site. That's not including infiltration. Even if we get minimal infiltration rates of 2 inches per hour, it's going to handle even more. But that volume is about 4 inches of runoff, or 4 inches of rainfall over the 0.36 acre site. As far as the storms that are occurring, you can't put a number on them. These are what they call the flash flood events. Storm events are identified by the DEP in terms of 24-hour rainfall events. So a 4-inch rainfall over 24 hours might be a 5 or 10-year storm. A 4-inch rainfall in 2 hours, it's a flash flood event. It's not really classified. Areas flood and it dissipates quicker as opposed to the longer storm. So there's no number to put with these recent storms. This system, with minimal infiltration, will completely handle, we estimate, between a 10 and 15-year design storm, which will significantly improve. It's not going to cure any flooding that happens in the municipal parking lot, but it's certainly going to be a huge benefit to it. It's quite a bit of water that we're taking away from that parking lot.
Okay. All right, last question. Did you have a chance to review the most recent report from Neglia Engineering dated July 27, 2026.
I did.
And have you, at this point, based upon your prior testimony and the plans as they've been revised several times at least, have you addressed all of the engineering comments in the Neglia report that are able to be addressed prior to construction of this project or development of the property?
Yes,
Okay.
they're addressed.
All right, and there are a number of conditions that you haven't been addressed because they deal with matters that, most of which could not be addressed until projects being constructed, like requirements related to soil movement.
There's some
and
outside agency approvals that we need to get, and we know we need to do the actual soil testing in the area of our storm detention system.
And is the applicant agreeable to complying with all of the remaining requirements in the Neglia report that haven't already been addressed?
Yes.
In the course of the hearing? All right.
Yes.
And I prepared a list that you've reviewed.
Yes.
And that I'd like to submit to the board, which just has, I think there's a listing of, I guess, 12 sections of the most recent Neglia report, which the applicant would agree to comply with, as conditions of approval. I don't expect Roberto or anyone to review this and approve it tonight, but we're not going to be completing this until September, but at least you would have a document that could be incorporated to a resolution of the application where you approve listing conditions to be complied with post-approval.
All right, so this will be 836.
Thank you. All right, that completes my examination of Mr. Gesario.
Any additional questions from the board? If not, if any audience members have questions for this witness, please step up.
Hello, I'm Holly Felber. I own Barber Eclectic, located at 594 Valley Road. I specifically have a question concerning the driveway, because I didn't see the picture that you handed out tonight. If you're going to put the sidewalk along the building, and that will be cement, your driveway will be blacktop?
Correct.
Okay, currently, we have a driveway, a sidewalk, a driveway. Now, I believe we'll have approximately 30 feet of blacktop from the edge of that driveway to the edge of the fire station. Is that correct?
That sounds approximately correct. We have an 14-foot drive, and 12, it's about 26 feet.
Okay, so that'll be a very different look for our streetscape to have straight blacktop. Now, you're proposing that you will paint a line that will show the boundary for the fire department versus the public who are attending the swim school.
That's correct.
In your, how well do these lines work in keeping people where they're supposed to be, in your own experience?
I can't answer that question. I mean, the fire company's definitely going to go over it the way they've been today, but a typical driver accessing the swim school, I would suspect they should be able to honor that easily.
Do you think that a parent might become impatient if they're late and go around a car that is in the swim school driveway and go into the firehouse driveway?
I'm not sure why a car would be stopped in that driveway for them to go around. There's no door there, there's no...
No, but there may be a backup of cars waiting for someone to pull out of the compact space. you have to wait, so there's a line of cars waiting to get into that. It's something that I observe daily, the movement of the cars. I just wanted to ask the question, if you think there ever might be a situation where there is a line of cars going into the swim school and a parent is impatient, they don't want their child to be late for their class, so instead of waiting to actually turn right into that driveway, they will go right into the firehouse driveway and stop their car there. Do you think that might be a possibility?
Anything is a possibility with drivers today. I can't say someone will never do that.
Okay.
It's impossible for me to say that.
Thank you. And then Exhibit A36, will that be available to the public? That's the list that Mr. Tremulak just gave you. It's a summary of different engineering issues.
You can take a copy.
Oh, great. And is there a way we can hold it up to the camera so that if anyone's watching at home, they can see it?
I can give you a copy of that.
Thank you.
Is this on? Yes? Carol Ferentz, Princeton Place. It's Gesario, is that the right way to pronounce it?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. In your July 22nd update letter, responding to some inquiries, you make a number of references to previous testimony of the traffic expert for the applicant, correct?
I believe so, yes. I said prior.
And who is that traffic expert?
Our next witness.
I'd like him to answer. There's a I'm sorry, no, I'm just looking away. I'm sorry. I'd like all my answers from him. Please.
What's the question again? I'm sorry.
Who is the traffic expert you're referring to?
He's our next witness that I believe gave testimony at the last, or a prior hearing.
And what was that addressing?
Parking,
Is that what you consider traffic?
it's part of traffic.
And what's the rest of the part of traffic?
I'm not sure I'm following your
Well,
question.
traffic to me is not parking, but it's to you, and I'll accept that. If you say it's part, if parking is part of traffic, then what's the remaining 100%?
In this particular case, he gave parking testimony.
So you're not concerned at all about the traffic impact, ingress and egress going in?
Traffic report was not required, and am I concerned with it? No.
Well, the traffic report was not required based upon an interpretation of Dunkin' Donuts, which says, and I agree, that you cannot make a decision totally based upon the traffic on the roadway, which would be Valley. But it goes on to say that the planning board is required to consider the ingress and egress as it may apply to the traffic, i.e. backing up to the firehouse, creating a hazard, which then delays somebody responding to a fire. Is that something that should have been addressed, in your opinion?
You know, cars backing up onto Valley Road?
Well, if they're backing up, trying to get in because somebody's maneuvering, they're getting old like me, in my 80s, I want to drive backwards, it's not quite the same. Takes time, it backs up on Valley. Is that something that should be considered by this board as to the ingress and egress impacting upon the safety of the municipality with regard to property and life saving, which I have been told I overreact to that, but I don't overreact to one death, okay?
I can respond to that.
I don't want a response from you, counsel,
Well-
I want a response from the witness.
He's not our traffic expert.
I-
All
he-
let me just say what I have to say, and then you can move on. I agree with
Thank you.
What you just mentioned, ingress, egress, circulation, is relevant on any site plan application. I believe Matthew Seckler, our traffic engineer, previously testified about that as part of his prior testimony, and if he didn't, or if you have any further questions.
He will
about it,
today.
He's going to.
Yeah, of course.
He's going to be the next witness.
Okay.
But this, it's not within this witness's purview.
Well, let's back up. What are your credentials, sir? You're a licensed professional engineer.
I am.
Are you skilled in examining for parking and for traffic, if required? You
I don't
familiar
do
with those
traffic
requirements?
studies, but
Yes.
I can give you my opinion. The
Yeah,
ingress
you do
is
traffic
safe.
studies, yeah.
No, I do not do
You do not.
traffic studies.
You
That's
may
a
not do them.
specialty.
Could you do it?
No, that's a specialty in the area.
Okay. So that at no time was there any involvement of your company with regard to the concerns of the impact of the ingress and egress, backing up traffic,
We
crowded
believe,
circumstance in the firehouse next door? You never considered it?
no, we believe the ingress we proposed is safe, and the amount of space between the street and the parking lot allows the queuing of a significant amount of cars, enough cars.
Have you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No.
interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's my professional opinion.
Okay. Have you made any determinations or with regard to the egress going out the back and through the lot?
Other than showing that a largest truck or vehicle that we expect to visit this site can work its way through and out that exit, to that extent.
And since there's larger trucks that go through there, would that impact upon the ingress and egress, or at least the egress at that point in time?
No, the vehicle I'm referring to is like a Sprinter van. That's the largest vehicle that's going to enter this site to make any deliveries. And
Hey.
it can come through and egress out the driveway that we show.
Have you actually made any visual inspections of that area to give yourself some feeling of how this would actually work?
Yes, I've been to the site, and we're actually widening that driveway to what we're allowed to widen it to, and removing the tree that's there to improve visibility.
Okay. And then to be clear, when you go to the egress, have you looked at that to see once a vehicle goes down, it's going to have to be a hill and goes to the right, how difficult that's going to be to maneuver with number of spaces there, people backing out of all of those areas, waiting for them, and that's going to, just by a snow effect, back up the hill, back through the driveway, back onto Valley, and right in front of the firehouse. Have you given any consideration to that?
Yes, we don't believe you'll get that much of a backup for a car waiting to get out, that it would back up all the way out to Valley Road.
Well, I'll pay for your parking at the meters if you want to come 6 times a day and go through that lot and see if you can find a spot without waiting there 15 minutes. You want to meet me one day and I'll show you?
I've been to that lot, I don't know. I found a parking spot the day I went, I don't,
A parking spot.
well, I only needed one.
And what time of day was that?
Mid-morning?
I have nothing else.
Hi, Justin Jesser, 120 Chestnut Street. Sorry, one really quick question. With regards to, you mentioned the pathway going to the parking lot in the back. That's 14 feet wide?
No, our entry drive is 14 feet wide.
Okay.
The sidewalk adjacent to the building is 5 feet wide.
So the entranceway is 14 feet wide, and that goes the entire length of the building?
Yes,
Okay. The only thing that I would say, just from observation, being a parent, having 2 little kids, getting very impatient, is that's just enough space for a person to pull over to the side and park their car on that 14-foot space. It's a concern, because if one person does it and they see it and they don't get a ticket, they don't worry about it, other people are going to start doing it. And then you have added kind of pressure on that space, and you're going to have backing up and queuing, and then you're also going to have everything going for egress and everything else like that. It's a concern. I think it changes the flow of a lot of things. I think it's potentially too wide, unless you kind of put something in there that prevents people from parking. Thank you.
Coming up. Yep. Any other questions from the public? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to, the first question, just, my comment on the first question about, will cars cross over that, that line from the fire department? It did, and we didn't really discuss that as a board. And this is a question, if the fire department vehicles use parking, do they need to have access across the property line for the entire length of the property line, or could they have access for a limited part of it? And I guess what I'm getting at is maybe the whole line doesn't need to be completely crossable.
Just with respect to that question, Mr. Genova can answer that. Bring him up
Okay,
after
okay.
we finish with Mr.
That's fine.
Gesario.
Okay.
During
Oh, good,
any other
thanks.
questions for him? Or
Does the board have any more questions for this expert? No, we're good. Thanks very much.
Thank you. So I would just briefly recall David Genova, who can respond to your question, Mr. Anamali.
Mr. Genova, you recognize you remain under oath?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Nwala, to your question, the request from the fire department was relegated to the rear because that's where their parking area, that was the request of where they would propose to cross into our site. From our perspective, it does not need to be the entire length of the driveway. But just to note the existing condition now, which I think there might have been confusion on, it is currently asphalt and then a deteriorating sidewalk and then asphalt all at the same level. There's no curb protecting that sidewalk now going through. So the condition is not dissimilar other than pavement type from what we're proposing moving forward. We certainly don't have a concern. We would curb the part of the site that is not adjacent to their parking area. The only, other than personal vehicle manipulation, they did express some interest on off hours, maybe washing a fire truck out there. That might limit that. That was not something that they did not seem to be a strong suggestion or feeling, but if that were the case, we would rather not have that go over the curb. But that's the only reason that the curb doesn't go, that the curb can't go, from Valley Road to at least the back of the firehouse itself.
So that would act as, the existing sidewalk right now, that even if it's deteriorated, does act as a visual barrier, and people, even though it's not a perfectly performing sidewalk, it does act as sort of a boundary, don't cross over here. So I think that's what the neighbor was indicating.
And I wouldn't want to confuse people on where they should and shouldn't walk, but we would have no objections to like a Belgian block transition or some sort of alternate paving material between the two if this board didn't feel as though that would confuse people as to their intended walking path.
In that scenario, what would the width of the curb cut or the cut be for the crossover from the fire department to your property? If there is a curb, you create a Belgian block curb from Valley Road to the rear at some point, what would the width of that entrance and exit be at that point?
You mean on the fire department side?
No, on his side.
I would need Mr. Gesario to answer that question. I don't want to.
You want to take a...
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, you indicated that there was no physical barrier between...
There isn't now.
Well,
There's
respectfully,
There's a sidewalk.
there's a curb too. There's a curb on both sides on...
But the curb is like at the height of the sidewalk.
No, it's about a good 3-4 inch reveal in the curb. On your side. On the fire department side, it's less so, but there's still a curb. I'm looking at pictures.
I believe you. I mean, in the back there's not.
Yeah.
So I guess I think what's before us is, I mean, the idea that was expressed by the neighbor was, there's concern about people entering this wide driveway that's created, and then kind of cutting across the boundary with no, sort of at will. So I guess the question would be, is there anything that the applicant can do to prevent that from happening that wouldn't prevent the firehouse from being able to cross over? So, have some sort of visual prevention, point, or something that speaks to the incoming driver to say, stay on your side, don't go over to the firehouse, cross over, just enter here.
So you want something to channelize the traffic?
Channelize it, yeah, and
Yeah.
still allow the fire department to cross as needed.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
it's
that's
not-
what I was getting at
Yeah.
with the notion of a curb cut or a
Curb, right.
cut
Right.
between the two properties and how
At the
wide
end,
that would be.
at the back,
At
where
the
they
back.
would cross over.
Certainly.
Or some sort of marking on the fire department could mark their property, if they wanted, yellow stripes, whatever,
But
just
people
to say
ignore
this
it.
is not a public space.
But we all know people ignore it all the time.
People do, even
if
for
you
fire
disrupt it.
departments, yeah.
So,
So a change of elevation is really the only way to.
but I think it's a good point. Hey, if you have curbing, people go over the curb. We've seen that too. So
Right, but less so.
Maybe there's a way to channelize it so that cars aren't veering off of this driveway
Mhm.
into the fire department property. Even if you mark it as a fire lane, people still park there.
Right.
And I would say you could do that by adding some landscaping, but I don't think that's a good idea. It would just probably run over. I'm not sure what the answer is.
But I do hear the public comments, like if you see this extra wide driveway all at one elevation, it's confusing. And you think, two cars can pull in at the same time or something.
Can we divert it at the street?
Mhm.
Put something so that it's not going to be one great big curb cut? And I'll ask the engineers, can you divert the traffic since the fire department doesn't need to use this to pull back to behind their building? We can put some kind of diverter at the street,
I mean,
at the
one-
sidewalk level.
Yeah, one thing we've been doing on the township level is installing the plastic delineators that go along areas where you don't want
Bollards?
cars to.
Yeah.
Not so, bollards is an option too, that's more
A street
permanent.
tree?
Yeah.
Right. Currently, it's a giant curb cut from the fire station continuous.
Right.
I'm just looking through Google Maps, and, well,
You're right.
actually, up until you hit the hydrant, until you hit the building. Right, so it just looks like one giant driveway, not two separate properties.
May we leave this with the applicant? I mean, if the applicant kind of understands what we're getting at, may we leave this with you to maybe?
I do,
think-
Well,
Okay.
I actually have a suggestion
All right.
because we have one more meeting. Can we have you meet with the fire department? You have your engineer meet with Norberto and our fire officials to come up with
Sure.
a design to address this issue. I mean, I think it's a legitimate issue, and we could resolve it, bring it back to the board at September 14th.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, our next witness this evening is Matthew Seckler.
Do you need to hook up your,
I don't, but I think it might be useful.
I think it might be helpful for the public.
do you have your laptop?
Yep.
I want to take a break. Let me try to get the HDMI cable. Do you have it?
Let me take a look.
I
I'll
don't
take a
see
break.
it here. Let me see your laptop.
Either one.
Okay. Good. Yeah, well, it just needs a cable to connect to the,
Just a regular one, or just, like, what is it made out of?
it can take the regular.
Shirley Reynolds.
USB.
Regular,
Do you have it, or an HDMI?
or just regular HDMI?
Yeah. it'll work.
Is this what you sent me earlier?
No, I don't have this.
This is the second page of this.
Oh, okay, I do have this. It was the second one that I sent you.
Mr. Seckler, you were sworn previously, right?
Yes, I was.
You recognize that you and your laptop remain under oath?
Yes, I do.
Good.
Mr. Seckler, you submitted a letter report, supplemental letter to the board dated July 23rd, 2026, along with some exhibits, and that's been previously marked as Exhibit A32. You're familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
All right, can you, what was the purpose of preparing that letter, first off, and then after you answer that, you can proceed to discuss the letter and the exhibits.
Certainly. So this letter report does not really include a substantial amount of new data. I know at the previous hearing that I testified to, bless you, I shared some maps and exhibits and bar charts that the board has looked at there. Your own professional parking expert gave testimony. I listened to that testimony. There was a couple items I just wanted to clarify in listening to that, so that's what this resubmission package was meant to do. It is a very short one-page letter and then some exhibits, of which the second page is currently showing on the screen now. So what's on the screen now is the area that we consider the inner catchment area, and that includes the pink area, which is the on-street spaces. This includes, and again, this was previously testified to, but I want to show the graphic to clear this up. It is along Valley Road, all the way from the Brick Lane Restaurant, all the way to Bellevue Avenue. It is Cooper Avenue from Valley Road to Northview Avenue. That includes both metered and some 2-hour spaces. There's metered spaces about to where the CVS ends, and then there's 2-hour spaces near the Women's Club and across the street from the Women's Club. That stretch there. We also included, which is in green, the 3 lots, which is the Upper Montclair Plaza lot, Bellevue lot, and Bellevue Erie lot. There was some discussion at the previous hearing that I was not at regarding whether the limit of the on-street spaces that were included, so I wanted to make sure this exhibit was prepared and submitted to the board, so it was understood that when I included at the previous hearing the testimony of the 263 spaces, what they included. So again, it's the areas outlined in magenta and green on the second page of Exhibit A32. The subsequent exhibits are the bar charts that I showed last time, with the exception that I've overlaid the expected parking demand from the SwimQuest school in green, and I've hatched them. It's difficult to see on the screen other than being hatched, but those are the topmost areas on the bar chart. What we did, including what the expected parking demand was for the SwimQuest, this was, again, what I had testified to previously, was that we assumed during the peak time periods that there would be 18 children in the pool, and then if it's the fifth, and then another 18 children either getting ready to go in the pool or just coming out of the pool, depending on what part of the 15-minute period that we were looking at. So all the peak hours would assume that there'd be 36 children in the pool, meaning 36 parked cars needed for the visitors of the SwimQuest. We assumed we had 10 parking spaces on site, which is why for this exhibit, and this is again this page, the third page, you'll see that 26 parking spaces is what we're looking at in the public lots, which again would be the 36 children, either 18 in the pool or 18 getting ready or just out of the pool, minus the 10 spaces that we have on site. So that carries through all the way till the end of the day, where you would only have 18 children in the pool, because it'd be the last session, there'd be no one else coming in the pool. And again, with 10 spaces on site, we would need 8 spaces in the various public parking areas around the site. So again, we mapped that out on this on these bar charts for both the October weekday, October weekend, May weekday, May Saturday, and May Sunday counts that we previously testified to. So again, the actual counts have not changed. These are basically the exact same bar charts you saw previously. We just overlaid the demand that we'd expect based on the SwimQuest. And again, I would emphasize that that assumes 18 cars for 18 children. So if there's carpooling or siblings in the pool, we're overcounting that parking demand that is necessary as part of this, and as opposed to as part of these bar charts. I would note, I really didn't have any objection, because I did listen to the testimony by your parking expert. As I testified to previously, when parking lots reach 85% or greater in terms of their reaching their capacity, they do feel full. They do require, and I have no objection to the way that the parking expert testified to, that it does require people potentially to circle lots or, obviously reach out to further and further lots in order to find parking. But again, what we're testifying to here is that based on, these bar charts, you would have at all times at least a few empty parking spaces within the inner catchment area. So again, these were just in an effort to overlay that expecting SwimQuest parking demand on top of the existing demand that we saw out there in October and May. So really not a whole lot of new testimony, not a whole lot of new data, but just wanted to make sure that we clarified our position and the data that we've prepared.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Right. And you've already determined that within this limited catchment area, there's 263 available spaces?
Correct.
Okay. And according to your charts, correct me if I'm wrong, that at no point in time does the parking requirement, including the 26 space demand for SwimQuest, exceed the 263 parking spaces available.
Correct.
In other words, there's available parking according to your analysis.
There's available parking. I'd love for there to be more. I'd love for there to be more parking spaces available nearby. We're stuck with the data that is collected where, again, there are time periods when these lots are starting to get constrained. Parking does need to push out a little bit further. But again, we did notice during all time periods that we did counts that there would be sufficient parking within the 263 closest parking spaces to the site. I would also note that your parking expert did, I think, a similar exercise to this. In his charts, he included relocating vehicles that he saw parked on our lot, meaning the lot that we're going to develop. I think that was previously testified to, that I believe those were fire vehicles that would no longer be parking on our site. So that may be a reason why our parking charts differ from his. The other aspect is that we did not add additional parking related to the Bellevue Theater. The Bellevue Theater was not open in our October counts. They were open in the May counts. I think it had just opened for the May counts. Our May counts are actually less, even with the Bellevue Theater open. I'd also note that the Bellevue Theater would have, I'd say, some overlap to our catchment area, but not completely. And in other words, we looked out, let's say 800 feet or so around our building and looked at those 263 spaces. The Bellevue Theater, all of their demand would not be within those 263 spaces. Some of them may be in other spaces that are, let's say, a little bit further from our building, but still within 800 feet or 1,000 feet of the Bellevue Theater. For example, if I go back to the second page, the Bellevue Theater located here, if you did a similar catchment area for that site, it would likely include the Bellevue Lorraine lot, parking on Valley Road, potentially even parking on, if you're seeing a quick show and it's under 2 hours, you might be able to park on North Mountain Avenue. But again, our catchment area is not exactly the same. So while there is some parking demand related to the theater, it would, again, some of that would be in lots that we were not accounting for in our development. So we wouldn't expect that all, I think he had 32 or 34 parking spaces would be part of our 260 some odd spaces. They may be in other lots outside of what we count.
Thanks. I meant to do this at the last time, and it just came to me. The 260, you said 263 or 260 capacity. Can you itemize those by the lots? I know you've got 3 lots in here. You're not using Bellevue Lorraine.
Correct.
And I'm just trying to square up how many each of those lots are contributing to the 263, and then in your pink, that the street parking, how many are you attributing to that? So we can get it. I'd like to get, if possible, see how those totals equal 263.
Sure. 1 second. Let me get those.
Because I think what the charts are demand, right?
The charts are demand.
Demand,
So
okay,
you want to know
right.
how the
Yeah, like
supply adds up?
Yeah, where do you get the 263
Okay,
from?
let me get you those in a second. Just making sure I capture all of my math. Hold on one second. So I believe it's 224 is what we counted for in the lots. You want me to give you each lot individually? It would be 96 in the Bellevue lot, 68 in Bellevue Erie,
68?
yep, and 60 in Upper Montclair. Again, those lots have more spaces than that. We are not counting certain reserved spaces or private spaces in those lots.
Okay, so you said 60, and that totals for...
Can you repeat that again? You
Yep.
said 96 in Bellevue, 68 in Bellevue Erie, and
60 in Upper Montclair Plaza,
60 or 68?
60, sorry.
Yeah.
And then the remainder would be assorted on-street spaces.
Okay, and then...
total?
224 plus, I guess,
263 was the total.
so the balance is in the pink area?
Correct.
Okay.
39, I guess that would be.
Yeah, so it's pretty close to the Montclair utility, parking utility has 59 meters and then 4 accessible spaces for Upper Montclair. Bellevue lot has 94 meters plus 6 accessible. Permit spaces are separate from that. They've broken out what's permit. And then Bellevue Lorraine is not in your catchment area, but I think the one lot that I'd like, and maybe other members of the board would like to ask about, because questions did come about the Bellevue Erie lot. The parking utility has 0 metered spaces on their website for that. Because, you know, and if you drive through there, it says permit parking throughout the whole thing. So I guess the basic question is how, you know, what are those spaces and how can we include them as the 68 or 60, I forget? Because if, it might be misinformation on the website, we may not understand how those spaces are really used.
Yeah. Well, I will say that there needs to be, in general, there definitely should be some clarity as it relates to the signage that's out there. When you're entering the lot, there's a big sign that gives various hours in which permits are allowed, you know, at the N and the U, and sometimes they're together, sometimes they're not. But when you're in the lot, I agree there are spots, and a lot of spots say permit only, you know, NJ Transit style, some are not NJ Transit style signs. But then there are also a park mobile sign, and if you go on the app, you could pay for parking in that lot. That lot is a listed lot to be able to pay for parking. So again, we took it as that if Park Mobile allows you to buy hourly parking in that lot, then that is a lot that's available. Again, people may not know, they may be nervous about using it because of all the other signage there. And again, from our correspondence with the parking authority, parking utility, I don't know what the definition
Utility
is.
now, yeah.
In township. I know there's legal ramifications of that. It is our understanding that the Park Mobile is allowed to be purchased there. So again, whether the signage is consistent, it appears that the Park Mobile
One question,
is
isn't that an
permitted.
all-day parking? Park Mobile only allows you to purchase the entire day in that lot.
Correct.
You can't park for 1 hour. You can't park for half an hour in that lot. You can only, if you're using
could-
Park Mobile, you have to pay the $5 for the entire day.
You could pay for the whole day, right?
Or
You're not-
whatever it is.
Yeah, you're not required to park all day, you're required to pay for all day. So it'd be a $5 and change space versus the 1 hour or whatever amount you're gonna use for the other spaces. But you can purchase, again, you'll over-purchase, but you could use that for parking.
Well, I guess because this, and others can join in, because the parking demand is so close to capacity, I think that defining what the capacity is probably pretty important. And if there's messaging that is not entirely accurate, it's not within this board's, ability to tell a parking utility what to do, but it certainly is, when you drive in, it seems like you can't park anywhere because there's either restaurant parking or there's permit parking, so you get discouraged about parking there despite having the app there. So I don't know.
Yeah, I will say that the time period in which we are, let's say the most squeezed, the most limited in parking, that lot, which is of course I have two blues, which is the upper blue here, is generally full. There's not a whole lot of excess supply in that lot during the time periods that we're squeezed the most.
In the weekdays, probably.
Right, during
Yeah.
weekdays after work. The time periods in which that lot is the lowest is actually on the weekend where you can't even, the parking demand,
Right.
I'm getting too close to the screen, is, in this 1, 2, 8, that's the time period where we would use the lot the most would be on the Saturday, middle of the day, on the weekend.
Right.
But
Yet
so-
it still just says permit parking, period. It doesn't say permit parking only Monday through Friday.
Agreed, but on the Saturday is when we have a lot more
Right.
capacity
Right.
overall.
Elsewhere,
So
right.
if for some reason, and again, if we don't have all 68 spaces and you say 68 spaces can't be used, I'd obviously have to recalculate my numbers and see where we land. But again, when we're squeezed the most, that lot is not really a lot where our potential customers would be going to because it's generally full.
I agree. It does trouble me, possibly, if you can park there for $5 all day. I question whether a parent looking to park for a half-hour class is going to use Park Mobile versus just drive around and park elsewhere. And then I've always thought you can't park there, so I've never chose to park in that lot. So it is concerning. It might. You're probably right about the Park Mobile thing, but I think as a driver, driving around looking for parking, it doesn't appear to be a spot. I mean, it's nitpicky, and I just am curious, like, so, again, looking at the parking utility map, like, they say 94 meter spots in Bellevue, you say 96. Why is there, like, even just, they're minor discrepancies, but why is there a discrepancy at all? Are you counting, like, handicap spots?
Our 96 was not including handicap spots.
Oh,
in-
so
if
they
you're
have
including Bellevue.
94, is that just, it's a minor discrepancy. I was just curious why there was
Well,
one at all.
I will tell you, I'm just trying to see if there was a time period where, there may be a, legally parked car or a car that is.
I'm just
you know,
saying
hatched
supply.
area, But
Yeah, supply based on what they say, and supply, it's minor, like 59 in Upper Montclair, you have 60. So I just, there's probably a actual number. That's the actual number that's available. This is not including permit. So it would
Correct.
just be good to have your numbers squared away with what's there and what is, I'm giving benefit of the doubt to the parking utility. Maybe I
Yep.
should be giving benefit of the doubt to you.
again, I
Unclear.
it could be worth a recount to capture the one that may be on.
Yeah, again,
on either end.
it's not a
Yeah.
huge deal, but when we're talking about the perceived tightness,
Yep.
a few
understood.
spots might matter.
Is your question to the witness, where did you get your information from?
That might be a good way of saying it.
Our staff counted all the parking spaces
Okay.
and all the meters, but again, I can't speak to, there could have been a meter that, has been broken or, is no longer active or
Okay.
was, leased out to someone or something like that, maybe why we capture it. But again, being off by 1 meter, I understand we're trying for accuracy, and again, we are at a very close
Yeah.
knit thing that, we don't want to make sure we're missing any, but, a plus or minus 1 wouldn't change the conclusion completely, but yes, I would want to have a chance to, walk with them and check every meter number.
Well, I
down.
actually appreciate it. The answer is that you walked and
Yeah.
counted, and
Yes.
that answers the question for me. I mean, it seems reasonable that could happen.
I have a question. Mr. Seckler, I know have you determined where employees will park?
At this point, from the operator's perspective, they have only told me they will not be parking on site. Where they're going to park, that's all they've given me the
And I
information.
know that Mr. Giosa said they're going to have to park somewhere.
That's right, he can.
So I know when he added those 10 spaces into his analysis, because you're going to have to find some place for them to park if they're not parking on site. So shouldn't that be included in the analysis?
If they are parking in public spaces, they would need to be included in the analysis. Again, some of these metered spaces or they could be restrictions, 2 hours, things like that, where again, they may not be appropriate for an employee who's going to be there for 6 hours, 8 hours,
Which
things of that nature.
begs the question, where are employees going to park? It's kind of an important consideration. So, okay.
I'm not sure if this question is for you or for Mr. Gesario, but in his A30, the July 22, 2026 memo, he mentions that, for example, the parking space in the Upper Montclair Plaza lot has no record of that space that when you come down the egress, there's a parking space apparently there, but the utility has no record of that. How is this going to be reconciled? Has anyone reached out to the utility in order to determine what is going to be? Are you going to get a permanent easement for that? Or are they going to give up that parking spot?
We're not sure whether an easement is legally required, but I respect, Roberto's opinion and concern that that parking lot might not always be owned by the township, so to have some permanency to it, I don't think an easement would be required to access into a public parking lot. But I understand that, there might not be any permanency to that. The town could sell it to a private person and it would be beneficial to have an easement. So, we believe that we would be able to obtain that, and that would be a condition of approval. It's one of on the list that I gave to the board earlier.
I believe the parking utility superintendent said that applicants are, if there's a loss of a township parking spot, then the applicant would have to pay for the loss of that spot.
Well, I would remind the board, though, that we're adding 2 spaces on Valley Road that don't currently exist. So there would be a spot lost in a lot that would be replaced by 2 public spots available right on Valley Road.
And you're confident that there will be 2 spaces
Yes.
on Valley?
Mhm.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Did you have anything further you wanted to add to regarding the supplemental letter report?
Yes.
Okay. You were here earlier when a member of the public asked a question regarding ingress and egress for the site circulation. Is that something you've reviewed as part of your evaluation as a traffic engineer?
Yes.
For this project? Okay, and what can you say about it?
So I think there are some benefits to this application from a safety point of view. One being the closure of the egress driveway that goes onto Valley Road today. Again, having less potential conflict points on a busy road like that is beneficial. Again, coming out of that driveway when it was open, you could have had left turns going in or out. And again, I think that possibly could cause congestion near the fire station. In this case, we were only having right turn in and left turn in, no out movements on Valley Road. Obviously, that's our proposal. The county could come back and say you can't have left turns in, and we would be only right turn in. It's obviously their roadway, their jurisdiction. I know they do take opinions of, township, boards or governing bodies. If there is a turn restriction, they would consider it. In terms of egress, again, we're going out into the public parking lot instead of into a public street. Again, that is typically seen as a move in the right direction from a private development standpoint. You do not want to have to access and having your egress traffic on a busier street. I would say the movement would be very similar to I think Tallbots, which is right next to us, has a access point that comes down into the parking lot just like ours would. Again, has a similar grade where the parking lot starts up high and then goes low into the upper Montclair parking lot, and then you kind of circulate around the parking lot in that manner, the public parking lot in a, I guess it's counterclockwise direction. So again, we'd be similar to that in this case as well. So again, I think there is benefit to the fact that we are not accessing directly on Valley. It puts less strain onto the area where there is obviously a firehouse and a congested area that gets backed up because of train crossings, pedestrian crossings, fire emergencies. There's a lot going on, and I think taking an access point off of that road is a benefit versus a detriment.
A member of the public asked a question about, for lack of a better term, the site triangle coming down your egress into the upper Montclair Plaza lot. Do you foresee any issues with looking around cars and what have you as you egress into the upper Montclair lot?
Yeah, so going into the upper Montclair lot, it's a one-way circulation pattern in that area. So really you're looking mainly to your left. Obviously you need to look straight ahead to make sure there's not a car backing out one of the spaces you're kind of going towards, but you're looking to your left, and in that area is, again, where the Talbots, if I'm pronouncing it right, kind of driveway kind of dives down to the area. So again, we could see their driveway from our lot, and there's no parked cars physically next to us. In terms of there's no, parking in the upper Montclair lot that's immediately adjacent to us that we blocking our view as we come down into the lot. So I don't see an issue from a sight distance perspective coming down to the upper Montclair parking lot.
Any other comments or questions from the board or?
Okay, one question here. Just a question. I heard what you said about the weighing the pros and cons of eliminating that second driveway access on Valley Road, which I do agree it's beneficial to alleviate that portion. However, that volume of traffic is not disappearing. It's being sent to the upper Montclair parking lot, which is fairly congested on a good day. And I guess the concern is, or the question, what is your opinion and thoughts on the impact that will have on the circulation of that lot in particular, particularly when at the worst point, the at-grade crossing is closed because of the train station, as well as the light on Bellevue and Valley is red. It's gridlock at that point, from my own experience. So I guess what is your thought? Because the main issue here is vehicles exiting the driveway will have to loop around the lot to then exit onto Valley. And there's often instances where that driveway exiting onto Bellevue is backed up. So what's your thoughts on how that may potentially impact circulation of the lot as well as egress of the site?
And before you answer, are you contemplating that someone would have to go around inside the interior of the Montclair Upper Plaza lot
You're required to.
in order to exit onto
You have
Valley
to.
Road?
You have to. Yeah, it's a one-way loop around
Okay.
that parking lot.
Yeah, and again, you are correct. Anyone leaving our site would need to either circulate towards the Bellevue Avenue intersection, which, as you mentioned, gets congested, train crossings, things like that. Again, I don't know the legality of it, but there's also the access point between Talbot's and Starbucks. If you circulate all the way around, again, I don't know. I don't see anything that says private roadway only, so I assume you could legally use that and to get back onto Valley. Obviously, you have to circulate the lot in order to do so. But again, I don't think that we are, I think that is still a improvement versus dumping people directly back out onto Valley Road closer to the fire station, which is where our current access point is, versus either the driveway next to Starbucks or the access point at Bellevue near the train.
I'll ask a question. I mean, there was testimony, and I apologize, I forget. What was the testimony about how many people will just go park the car and walk their kids in? I remember someone speaking about that versus, trying to just go through the lot and drop off. There was some testimony, and I apologize about not having it handy, but it's relevant to this question because so for example, if some parents are just going to go find a parking space and then walk over versus, I guess the question is, what proportion of parkers are actually going to feed through this lot and dump out onto the municipal lot?
I think I might have given testimony anecdotally that some people may choose to just park in a spot where they know they'll find parking and then walk over versus hunt for the closest space. I don't have a proportional number. I just know from my experience, I'm the type of person that I like to park where I know there's a spot and I'll walk however far I need to, as opposed to following the person in the shopping center for when they're pushing their cart. But again, I assume this being a repetitive class, that kind of parents, there's a little bit of a learned activity of, okay, instead of driving through the lot, getting caught with the train down, I'm just going to park in this spot and then walk over.
Yeah, thank you. Any other Carol?
Yeah. Given the age that you're serving for the clientele of the swimming pool, I believe it's from infant to, is it 8 years? Is that the top?
I think 8 was the general range for their peak, but I think they'd go up to 10 or 12 or something like that. But I think 8 is, their prime. 6 months to 8 is their prime.
I thought the older children was for the birthday parties.
That might have been.
Well, that's for the birthday part. I was mentioning the swim lessons. I think the lessons are only up to, I guess you said the peak is 8-year-old, but that it can go up to 10. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I'd have to double check. But yeah, I guess I understand, or I think there may be a question beyond that, but I think that is
Right.
generally the range, yes.
Well, this implies that you're looking at mothers with babies in car seats and having to get them out of the car seat and do those kinds of things. So I presume that those people are not drop-offs.
Correct. No one is drop-off at this site. It's basically park. Like you said, it may be birthdays. If you have a 10-year-old, they'll run in and you could do a drop-off pretty quickly. But obviously, any of the infants, toddlers, they all need to be parked and walked in.
when it comes to the exit of the parking lot, I know that is there right now, there's no need. I know that Talbot's and a couple of other use that exit only onto the township parking lot. And I don't believe there's an easement or anything necessary. You just it's okay to do that without a particular permit from the township to use that as the only exit?
You're talking about our property, or did you mention Talbot?
You're saying that in order for the traffic to exit your parking lot, that they must go through the township lot. Is that not correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there an easement required to do that?
I don't believe so, since it's public property, and the site was originally developed with that driveway there, which is now blocked off by bollards, but at one time, that was utilized presumably for egress from the property. And again, so long as it's a public parking facility, I don't believe there's any requirement for public to utilize that. But we're going to get that clarified with legally, from a legal perspective, and if any agreements are required, we've agreed to obtain those as a condition of approval. But that would be something to work out with the township or the parking utility.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? How about we break quickly for 5 minutes, and then we'll take questions from the public? Is this because are there any more, do we have any more experts?
Not tonight.
Okay.
No.
How about 5 minutes?
Marion Road. Thank you. Hi. I have several questions generally about how one conducts these parking analyses, and then I have some particular questions. But after you do a parking, you've done 3 studies now, and the last one was in October of 2025. No, I'm sorry, May of 2026. That's right, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay. And there have been, I don't know if you're aware of it, but there have been new businesses that have moved in since May of 2026 and opened, Clementina being one of them, the restaurant, Jackie's Grillette expanding to a much bigger space, and then we have a IV physical therapy is going to be opening up soon. So that suggests, I think, that there will be additional pressure on parking. Is there a best practice in your field for how you update change circumstances?
So with parking, one of the challenges is where the uses are located. Again, I know where Jackie's Grillette is. I don't know specifically where every other business you mentioned.
Well, they're at the corner of Bellevue and Valley.
Okay.
Right? So they're in the area.
Right, but like Jackie's Grillette, would be outside of what we have as our inner catchment area. Customers of there may be utilizing Valley Road on-street spaces north of Bellevue, the Bellevue-Lorraine lot, and then some may overlap with us, in the Bellevue lot.
So your third catchment area, because you've had 3 as far as I can tell.
Well,
there's the greater catchment area, there's the yellow dotted line catchment area, and now there's this narrower one. And the narrower one doesn't include Valley Road north of Bellevue, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
So there may not, again, parking, again, is like a living, breathing thing. Businesses come out, new businesses come in. There was parking demand for, I assume, whatever was in Jackie's Grillette beforehand that, generated some level of parking.
It's been empty for quite a while,
Okay.
as Clementina was empty for several years. So when you did your analysis in May, in October and May, those spaces were empty, I believe.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to trust you on that one.
Okay.
If they've been out for a while, then obviously they were not open in May.
Right.
But again, they would, potentially be adding demand, some to our area, some to areas that were outside of what we're considering our inner area. So, there may be an uptick in a little demand on our end, could be an uptick in the other areas, outside of our zone of influence.
Okay. And we're talking about a 5-minute walk. That seems to be the ideal here. How is that determined, the 5-minute walk? How did your folks who collected this determine what was a 5-minute walk and what was beyond that?
So first off, the folks that did the data collection, they just collected the data. We then went back to the office to determine, hey, what's the reasonable distance that someone would walk in this area? What we did is, it's difficult for, let's say, a potential customer when they pull into a lot. If that lot was within what I'm going to consider a 5-minute walk, the beginning of it, I generally consider the whole lot to be within the 5-minute walk, because when you enter the lot and you're swinging around, you're not going to all of a sudden decide at an imaginary line, I'm not going to park in that spot when you're already within the lot. Like, you may not decide to drive on another street when you're going down public streets and be like, hey, that's too far, I'm going to turn around. But once you're in the lot, you're generally accepting anything within that lot. Now, what we looked at was generally, and I think this was discussion previously, in the traffic industry, we typically utilize like a 3.5 foot per second speed as what pedestrians walk at. That's what the traffic lights are timed for. When you see the countdown timers, when it's telling you how long to cross the street, that's based on 3.5 feet per second. In this case, we generally looked at that as being the limit. I did go back because there were some members of the public that questioned, well, if you have younger children and they're walking, you're pushing a stroller,
Right.
are you getting to 3.5 foot per second? I would say all of the areas we looked at, or at least had portions of the lots within 3 feet per second. So again, slower than what the traffic lights are timed for, but still, again, within a 5-minute walk for anyone, in the Bellevue lots or the public spaces that are on Valley Road or Cooper Avenue, as part of our catchment area.
Okay, so now I just want to ask you some more questions about your collection
Yes.
of the data, if I can walk over. So you said there were 633, your report says there's a total of 633 or so parking spaces, and that includes Lorraine Avenue down to Park, it includes Bellevue Avenue down to Park, it includes Cooper down to Park, it includes further on Northview. Would you agree with that? It's greater than the yellow area.
Correct. The 600 some odd spaces that we sent our staff out to catch to get a
It's everything.
bird's eye view was almost everything that you see in this picture.
Did you realize that your report says that there are 633 spaces within a 5-minute walk? And you testified to that also in your June. Maybe you didn't mean to do it because you said that within the yellow area, it's 633 spaces. Your table 3, I think, in your report says that.
I'd have to look at that. But again, like I said, I know that we started narrowing it down to the most logical spaces. And then, that's why we weren't counting all the way down Bellevue and things like that. And that's when we looked at this inner catchment area.
Okay, so let's just look at your initial report.
And which date is this? The May 22nd or?
Yes, your May
Okay.
22nd report on page 4, table 3. Right above that, it says the count data was collected in 20-minute intervals. A summary of the peak parking utilization within a 5-minute walk is provided below. But that's not really within a 5-minute walk, is it? Because
Correct.
it includes all 63 spaces. All
Correct.
633 spaces. And your testimony on June 1, which I listened to again, indicated that as well. So there are not, I just want to make it confirm that there are not 633 available parking spaces within that yellow area that you have in that map.
They're not within a 5-minute walk, I think is the.
Well, you've
Yeah.
testified that that yellow area is a delineation of a 5-minute walk.
I think there may be some spaces beyond a 5-minute walk here for a child in the yellow area. Again, I could confirm that everything within the 263 inner spaces are within a 5-minute walk of this
Okay,
site.
all right. All right. So I asked you before about updated information that you might come upon. And is it correct that what you're saying is that with respect to some of those sites, they're not really going to have an impact on this, the site in question?
They, again, depending on the use, they may or may not. Depending on their busiest hours and where they're specifically located, they may have some spaces that some customers that would park within the areas that we studied, and some may be in areas we did not study.
Okay. Turning now to the circulation within the Upper Montclair Plaza area, are you aware of the number of trains that stop at Upper Montclair throughout the day?
I don't think I have the exact number, but again, I am familiar with, how often, generally trains come by, especially during peak periods.
I have the schedule from New Jersey Transit, and between the hours of 9 and 6 on a weekday, there are 23 trains that stop at Upper Montclair. And that is a concern in terms of circulation through the Upper Montclair Plaza parking lot because of the backup that occurs at that time. And is it true? It seems to me that with the 10 parking spaces that are available on site, every half hour there will be at least 10 cars leaving the site to go to the Upper Montclair Plaza parking area, needing to circulate in that area. Is that correct?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay. That's an additional 10 cars every half hour.
Correct.
Are you aware of the bus schedule, the New Jersey Transit bus schedule? And not the commuter schedule, the number 28 bus?
I know the number 28 bus stops like 300 feet from here. I don't know the frequency of its
It
service.
stops at the Upper Montclair parking plaza and makes a left-hand turn onto Bellevue and then a right-hand turn onto Valley, and it does the opposite when it's heading north. Anyway, there is a bus heading north, a number 28 bus heading north in that area, approximately once every 30 minutes, and there's another one heading south in that area, approximately every 30 minutes. Does that that and the number of train stops that there are during the day, does that change your perspective on the circulation within the parking lot?
No, it does not, but again, it is good to know that the area is well served by mass transportation.
Do you expect that the parents who are bringing their children here will be using mass transportation?
I don't think they will be, but maybe an employee does utilize mass transit to get here,
Okay.
possibly.
Let me just look at this. You talked about the benefits of safety in terms of there not being an egress onto Valley Road, which I would certainly agree with, except you also stated that you thought that some of the vehicles leaving the site would travel counterclockwise and end up eventually entering on Valley Road. But what about the backup within, what's the benefit or the detriment to the backup of 10 cars every half hour, given the traffic on Bellevue Avenue and the backup from the trains, et cetera?
Well, again, I mean, typically, I would consider 10 vehicles in a half hour in an area that there's, hundreds of cars that go through an hour as a de minimis number. Now, I understand that there are some other factors of congestion related to, pedestrian crossings, train crossings, fire type of emergencies, things like that. So I am sensitive that a simple 10 number which would normally be, a minimal number may seem like it generates additional congestion. Again, I would say that, I think that, if the township was able to find 10 more parking spaces in the Upper Montclair lot for the public, that would be seen as a great benefit, and it would generate 10 more cars. We are generating the same 10 cars, but just in our site. I'm emphasizing the fact that I think that, it is, it is not, I don't think it is a substantial detriment, but I do understand there is additional congestion due to the area that we're located within.
And you mentioned that the county may not allow a left turn lane heading north in the ingress to the site. Do you have to get the permission of the county to do that?
We need to receive approval from the county planning board. Essex County does that decision after municipalities' local land use board has made their decision. So at that point, we would go before have our application be reviewed, and they could decide whatever turning movement restrictions they want to see.
Do you have any concerns from a safety perspective or from and the backup on Valley Road with a left-hand turn heading into the site?
Again, I think there are time periods where the left-hand turn is easy to be, I'd say relatively easy to be made. If traffic is being held up at the light at Valley and Bellevue and there's no cars coming southbound, it's easy to make a left turn in. And other time periods, it's backed up during rush hour, and you're hoping for a generous person to kind of wave you through. So there's obviously Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning might not be that difficult. 4:30 on a Tuesday may be very difficult.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Jan Hoffman, 193 Cooper Avenue. And I would like to say I am a far better expert on parking and traffic at Cooper and Northview than you. I've lived there for over 30 years. And where I live, it's about a 3-minute walk to your proposed swim school. First question, Mr. Seckler. If you have a choice between a free space and a paid space, where would you park?
I think all things being equal, most people would pick the free space.
Okay, and when you testified a couple of months ago, you talked about Cooper and Northview, and I believe you used the term negative spaces?
I believe when we showed the 20-minute interval counts, there were time periods in which there were more spaces than could either legally park or, meters on the street if it was in a meter area. Cars either jammed themselves in, or cars were illegally parking potentially too close to a stop sign or a crosswalk.
Or, cutting into my driveway or cutting into my neighbor's driveway. That's true. And so I would actually tell you that if you had been observing those parking spaces at more complete hours than you did, you would find almost negative parking spaces all the time. Do you know who parks there in the negative spaces?
Personally, no, I can't tell when I look at the cars.
It's
parked.
often employees in Upper Montclair or people who use the train station. So if you are with a 3-year-old, it's pouring rain out or snowing, and you have to get within your 5-minute walk to the swim school, and you can't quickly find a metered parking space, where do you park?
I guess in a space either further or...
You have a 3-year-old, it's raining or snowing out. Where do you park?
in the closest available space that you could find.
And where would that be?
It could be in one of the lots we were talking about. It could be on the street.
It could be on the street, it could be in CVS, and it could be in the Upper Montclair Women's Club. Because people are thinking, oh, I have a half an hour, what the heck, I'll risk the ticket. So you have not considered that or talked about actual behavior. How many staff people need parking spaces? I believe that was testified to before.
Yep. I believe it was testified to there be 10 staff at a max period of time.
Right. So that's really, in addition to the parking that you have requested, it's 10 additional spaces. Okay. Finally, I want you to know that you are now requesting additional parking that'll spill over where we are. I am a 3-minute walk from you in an area where there is consistently negative space, and you want to be there 7 days a week, sometimes till 8 o'clock at night. That's what you're asking of our neighborhood. Yes, is that what you're asking of our neighborhood? Is that the burden you're asking?
I'm just the traffic engineer. That's obviously what the applicant is asking for.
Well, actually, you know what? You have really talked, sir, about parking. You have not talked about traffic, which is considerable. And what you didn't talk about in your traffic report is the car accidents that have happened even a block off of Valley Road that I can testify to, because I call the cops every time there is a car accident at the intersection of Valley and Northview.
Again, what's the question?
Do you know when the most recent car accident there was?
No.
It happened about 3 months ago, and it was when a firefighter was coming home from work from the fire station right there. He was coming down Cooper, and someone was racing through Northview to beat the traffic on Valley and hit the firefighter's car because he landed up on my lawn. I hope you'll keep safety in mind, in addition to parking.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Neckerman. I own Get Dressed Montclair at 601 Valley Road, just north of Bellevue Avenue. You've been alerted now, I think, that there's staff that you need to park somewhere. I was wondering if you know that most of these parking spots are only 2-hour parking. So do you assume your staff will every 2 hours during the changeover from the classes go and re-park their cars and come back in time to teach a new class? Or is that gonna be a problem?
Again, as we testified to, the customers or parents parking, again, because their time periods are less than 2 hours, a half an hour at a time. All we've heard from the operators that they would be parking off-site. Obviously, that still needs to be clarified or discussed as part of the applicant's application.
Okay, thank you. Did you just testify that you checked the traffic on a Sunday, or did I misunderstand that?
We did parking counts on a weekday and Saturday in October, a weekday, a Saturday, and Sunday in May.
Okay, are you aware that most of the other businesses are closed on Sundays except restaurants? So there's definitely less occupancy for parking spots on Sunday in Upper Montclair?
Absolutely, and that's what we found. The tables showed the most demand on the weekday in the evening. Saturday was obviously the next, and then Sunday was the least. The reason why we did Sunday is we are located near some churches, so we wanted to make sure that we took into account, interaction between the church and then again the businesses that are open on Sunday.
And isn't your swim school closed on Sundays? I think that was the original. No?
No.
Okay, my mistake. And then I have actually a question to the board. I'm not sure I'm allowed to ask this, but we have, 4 new businesses in the block and a half already who all needed extra parking spaces. For example, the physical therapy doesn't have a single parking spot for the building. So when they're in business, they will use up a lot of parking spots. I have no idea how many. Is there a maximum limit of parking things? He might not even be aware of that and might not actually be his problem, but it's the problem for us as business owners in Upper Montclair. That let's say you have 263 spaces, and between all the businesses, we might need 400 already, and he's just at the tail end. He's like the last one to come in.
I don't think the board can answer that question. The town planner may be able to, if you know of any sort of comprehensive parking studies that have been done.
No, the last comprehensive parking study we did was in 2016, so it predates a lot of these current issues, so.
Okay, so we might, before he even comes in, be already full, even though some of the new businesses, Jackie's has just started a month ago with their much bigger space, and the physical fitness hasn't even started. So, but there's spaces that they will need, we know about already, right? Because they've already come before the board and made a plan. So that is my question. Is there a maximum that you would consider then? Because my business on Saturday, my customers leave and say, hey, I was going to come shopping, but I couldn't find a spot. And I'm like the parking lot police in the back, because everyone who goes to Jackie's and to Mercado's and just picks up food just drops their car and blocks that little area behind Frederick's and us. I can't even put my car in my own spot unless I ask someone else to move. And so it's even more than it's officially, because people just oh yeah, I'm just running in to get food. It's only going to be 10 minutes. What do I really worry about? So there's more, and I'm not sure this is part of what I should be talking about, but it affects all of us who have a business.
What the board has been, provided with evidence about five days. That's what we're working with now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to do our best with the evidence that's before us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have data beyond what the public has. I don't think there's been any other independent reports about the parking that you're talking about. So that's the situation that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I appreciate you listening to me, and I know it's not all on him, because we've already approved other businesses with other variances in the last few years. And as you said, your last study was in 2016, and Upper Montclair has definitely changed a lot since then. So I appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Hi, Liz Zazzy, and I live on Amherst Place in Upper Montclair. Mr. Seckler,
I have a couple of questions. You said that you had you didn't have any problem with the testimony of Mr. Giosa, the parking expert?
The township's expert, I listened to his testimony. I don't have any issue with his overall findings, the way that he explained his review letter. Again, the one thing I wanted to bring up was the fact that, I would say the catchment area related to the theater would be slightly different than ours, so some of his expected parking demand for the theater wouldn't only be absorbed by, the lots that we studied, that may be in other lots as well. That was the only real, clarification point that I wanted to raise on the record.
Okay, so you said lots. Do you know what lots you mean? Because I'm trying to picture as a consumer that uses the area, what lots there are that people would park in for the movie theater.
So what I was referring to is, again, on the figure A1, which is behind you, everything that is colored is the lots that we counted. The Bellevue Lorraine lot, Valley Road, north of Bellevue, Bellevue Avenue, east of...
No, I'm saying the lots that you said would be more utilized by people who are going to the movie theater. You said there were...
The Bellevue Lorraine lot, and then possibly if someone would be within walking distance to, I believe it's like the extension lot on the north side of Lorraine. I don't know if it's the Bellevue extension or the Bellevue area extension. There's a little bit of a lot further to the north on Lorraine, but again, also the on-street spaces along Bellevue Avenue or Valley Road, towards Lorraine and down towards Norwood Avenue. All that would also be potentially part of the theater, area. Same thing with North Mountain Avenue. If they're under 2 hours, those are other spaces that are closer to the theater as opposed to where our building is.
Right, but are you aware of how many permit spaces are actually in that lot that I think you're calling it the Bellevue Lorraine lot?
Bellevue Lorraine has 16 permit spaces, I think 54 private spaces and 33 metered spaces.
And you're not counting that in your
We're not counting
captured
that in our
area?
capture area.
Okay. And so did I mishear? Because I remember Mr. Giosa's testimony, he said that he felt there would be deficit parking. In other words, there would not be enough parking spaces in the captured areas, or catchment, whatever the word is. He testified, to my recollection, that there would not be enough, and I remember he used the word deficit. Did I misremember that?
So-
Because you seem to be agreeing with what he testified.
So I don't have his, let's say, chart handy, but the differences between his chart and my chart is that his chart, which led him to and he's here, so he could probably speak for himself. But I just want to highlight a couple of differences. He accounted for cars that were currently parking on our lot that I believe were firefighter spaces that he added to his chart, so that increased the demand either above or close to the demand line. And then again, he added the theater parking, which again, he included the entire demand of the theater parking within our 263 spaces, and that popped it over the number. So I agree, if you were to count those two things, it would pop it above the number, and then basically what it does is it pushes cars out of our catchment area. So that could mean that, someone who is going to one of the other businesses along Valley Road, that person may be parking on Bellevue Avenue or something like that instead of, on Valley Road in our catchment area. But
Okay,
again,
thank you. And I'm glad you said the firefighters parking on your property now, because as a person who is a customer of Chase Bank, that drive-through ATM not only functioned as a drive-through ATM, but there were parking spots there that said for Chase customers only. And those parking spots were intended, and I know this because I bank at that Chase, they were intended not only for people using the ATM, even though they were abused by people shopping everywhere, they were intended for the people using the bank that is on the corner of Valley and Bellevue. Those parking spaces, which are now blocked with stanchion signs that say no parking, yet there are firefighters apparently parking there. Somebody's parking there, right? It used to be people like me using the bank
Ma'am,
and the
well, I mean,
employees
listen,
of
we have
Chase
to
Bank.
turn, if you could, we understand, the board
Right,
understands
so I'm just
that with
saying,
the
okay,
previous
so
uses,
again, let's go back to the, where do the employees park? Because not only are your employees looking for all-day parking, but all of the people that used to park at the Chase ATM, who were customers and employees of the Chase, they're looking for the parking as well. So I guess that's my closing question.
So I assume those employees were parking in somewhere in the spaces that we either counted or outside our catchment area today. The bank is still open, correct? Not the ATM.
It's the largest
Yes.
Chase in all of Montclair.
So that, those employees, if they parked within, back when the lot was open, they parked on our property. I understand that.
Yes.
But in October or May, when we did our counts, I'm assuming they were parked somewhere in that map, but not on our property. I believe the people parked on our property were solely firefighters.
Well, I'm not allowed to answer, but they're all looking for parking.
Correct. So if they were parked in any of the areas that we've colored, then they're in our counts and our demand. If they parked in areas north or east of our area, then they're not in our catchment area, but they are, again, I agree they're parking somewhere, but they are within our counts if they are not parked on our site.
Right, but it comes back to the deficit, which we're at a deficit if those 10 spots, whether they're firefighters or they were the Chase customers and employees, that's a deficit. Thanks, sorry.
Well,
That was a statement, not a question. I
just
admit it.
I just want to clarify then. I believe there was some testimony, and I didn't hear all of it, about the firefighters parking on our lot and when they would be able to park on our lot and when they would be still parking on the fire site. So I don't believe that they would be spilling, or they wouldn't be added to the demand in the areas that we've done our parking. I believe they're being handled either parking our site after we close, for the overnight shift, or they're parking back on their property. I believe that was what the testimony was.
Okay, thanks.
Holly Felber, Barber Eclectic. I would like to reiterate that the fire staff will have to find parking too. But a question for you. The past two or couple witnesses stated several new businesses have opened. Are you aware that there are 3 new businesses opening within the Upper Montclair Plaza parking lot?
Just from driving around, I see that there's, let's say new tenant space, but I don't have any idea of what the tenant is or their expected either parking demand or hours.
One is a dog groomer, another is a restaurant, and the third I don't know. And when your team did their parking study, did they notice how Kumon gets their students into their spaces? In their spaces in the building immediately next door to the firehouse, in the back parking lot.
Again, our staff counted the vehicles that were parked in parking spaces or illegally parked. So if they were waiting in the aisle, they would not have been accounted for. If they were parked in, a handicap stall or in a, as I mentioned, where there's a fire hydrant or something like that, they would have been counted as a car.
Okay. Did your team encounter any junk traffic? We learned that at the last meeting, that junk traffic is created when cars just circle and circle and circle looking for parking spots.
So I will say I did not instruct them to look for it, but I know from experience in driving through here, I did observe junk traffic driving through the lots.
And at our meeting, or the meeting here in June, I thought it was clearly established that the Erie lot was a New Jersey Transit lot, and you cannot park hourly there. So I am curious as to why you did not update your report and subtract those 68 spots.
As I mentioned earlier, you can purchase parking through Park Mobile. Again, it can be daily. You could utilize it for 5 minutes. You could utilize it forever long you have left in your daily parking pass. So that is why we utilized that parking. And I would reiterate that the capacity or supply that this use is utilizing from that lot is on a Saturday primarily, or a Sunday primarily, and not during the week. That lot is generally jammed up during the week when we would be, let's say, needing to find parking, so that is not a lot where we're pulling some of our supply from.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Warren Ross. I own the building in Upper Montclair Plaza, where I have 6 tenants. I have 2 questions. Are you aware that right now there are already 2 businesses that have drop-offs already in Upper Montclair Plaza, so that the cars are dropping off and circling, and it's causing a big backup of traffic flow in the plaza? They have the coder school and the daycare center.
Again, when I've done observations of the area, not as part of the counts, I have noticed there are time periods in which there are parents dropping off or picking up in the lot. So I have observed that.
And I'm there almost daily. And my second question is, what's going to happen when the customers from the swim club can't get into Upper Montclair Plaza? Because this happens frequently where cars have to back out, turn around. I was there Friday where a truck was blocked behind Ollie's business, and people didn't know what was going on. The horns are honking, people are backing up. Then we went out past Starbucks, and the traffic was backed all the way past CVS, and you couldn't go left. So I couldn't get out. I couldn't get out to Bellevue. I couldn't turn left on Valley. I had to go all the way down to Watchung to go all the way around to get to Bellevue Avenue to go over the. So the traffic right now is horrendous there. And what's going to happen when people leave and they can't get into the plaza?
So again, I can't speak to the day that you were referring to, if there was an accident or some vehicle parked illegally that was preventing the circulation pattern. Again, our customers would be not unlike the customers of your Upper Montclair Plaza lot, where, again, we rely on the vehicles following the normal path of traffic in order to get in and out, with the understanding that there is a train, there is a bus, there is traffic lights and pedestrians in this area in the downtown. But again, our 10 cars coming out of our lot would be, in a half hour, would be no different than the other businesses that utilize that parking lot.
So the new businesses that Holly mentioned before, and there's 3 new ones just coming in, none of them have their own parking space. So these are all adding into, so it's a blizzard. I mean, you have new cars coming in there, people dropping off from 2 existing. Your group would come in doing it, and the plaza was supposed to be for cars parking for the local businesses. It's going to be a problem. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Don Felber, born and raised in Upper Montclair, business owner, 594 Valley Road. In addition to some of the businesses that recently opened, Kumon Tutoring Center, Bloom Childcare, there's a dog grooming place which came online, I guess, this week. You'd mentioned Starbucks in your testimony. The Coder School, somebody else mentioned. There's Montclair Mud, which is a ceramic, I guess, classes, and there's also a Jungle Juice, which is very similar to the Starbucks. I don't know if all of those or some of them were open or not yet when you made your study.
I don't have the date of every single opening. I believe most of them were open. Again, obviously not the dog groomer that just opened at that time, but I do think a majority of those. But yes, I understand that the Upper Montclair downtown area is booming with retail and service opportunities, and they seem to keep coming, and that is obviously adding traffic and parking to this downtown.
Correct. it seems that in the Upper Montclair Plaza parking area, the new businesses that are opening up are largely pickup drop-off types, which would be kind of similar to yours.
Ours is not drop-off. Again, in the sense that you're there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then you leave. I guess that, could be a type of traffic, but we are not, you drop your 3-year-old off and then you come pick them up in, 30 minutes type of thing.
So the parents would be required to go inside with their child?
They would be walking their child in.
Okay. And when you did your study, was St. James's School across the street, directly across the street, open? Because they are a preschool, too, which we're also competing for the valued parking spaces.
So we did not do weekday counts early in the morning. So if they were open, we would have caught them at the end of the day. Like when we did our weekday counts in May, we did our counts from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So it would have had some overlap with potentially, if the daycare went later in the day.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they're probably like 8 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but anyway.
Well, and I just want to put on the record, the reason why we did our counts from starting at 3 p.m. is that's when we start to peak up. As was testified to, we do have classes with younger kids that may have, 5 or 8 kids in the pool at, 11 o'clock in the morning, things like that. But we ramp up when, I'd say the larger schools let out. So between 3 p.m. is basically the beginning of our peak period. So that is why we started our counts at 3 p.m. to capture as we would ramp up.
Okay. It was mentioned here tonight by Mr. Trembulac, and it was mentioned in previous meetings that I think you intend to capture 2 parking spots on Valley Road. Is that correct?
I think we had mentioned that by closing the curb cut along Valley Road, there appears to be the ability to have enough length for 2 parking spaces. Obviously, the actual design location, needs to be blessed by likely, I'm assuming, the county and the township in order to effectuate that space. A private business can't just start striping spaces on the street.
Are you aware that there's a fire hydrant on the property in some place?
I do know there's a fire hydrant just south of our entrance driveway.
Correct. And what is the overall, I don't know if it's the length of the property or the width of the property along Valley Road. Do you have any idea? From Talbot's to the firehouse driveway.
It looks like about 95 feet, I believe.
95 feet?
Yeah, it looks like 95 feet.
That might be a little bit longer than I thought.
Yeah, it looks like 95 feet based on the survey.
From Talbot's to the firehouse property line?
Yes.
Okay. I measured, and I was pretty generous. I have a 30-foot Stanley tape measure, and I came up with about 67 feet.
Yeah. Again, our property line goes all the way to the far end of the we were just talking about the sidewalk that is between.
Correct. I went Belgian block curbing from the firehouse to Belgian block curbing at Talbot's. But anyway, that's...
Yeah. We have the survey that
Okay, yeah, I don't doubt it.
The width of our property at Valley Road.
I also took a measurement from the firehouse Belgian block inside the fire department's side of the Belgian block to the fire hydrant. And I came up, do you know how far that distance is?
I'm approximating it off of this plan. It looks like it's probably, that's 14 feet. That's probably another maybe 22 to 25 feet, maybe.
I had 32 feet.
I'm not using a scale, and this is a half plan, so it's
close
possible.
enough. And from on county property, county road, when you make a stripe for a parking spot, how long must that be?
So typically, if you're a first space in a parallel parking, you could be about 20 feet, or the last space you could be 20 feet. In other words, if you could drive in or out of it, it's an easier space.
I'm talking about on-street parking, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So an on-street parking space, the first or last space could usually be a little smaller because it doesn't require as much maneuvering. You basically could, enter pulling in or exit pulling out as opposed to doing the back and forth. So again, if I was doing design, typically I'd have 20-foot spaces on the ends and 22-foot long spaces for anything that is, let's say, landlocked between two other spaces.
Gotcha. So I went on the county website and it said 23 feet. And Montclair Township is 20 feet, but obviously this is a county road. And from a driveway, how far must that first stripe be?
I don't know what the county standard is. Again, there is benefits to having daylighting for sight distance. In this case, we're an entrance-only driveway, so normally I'd want to have, could be 15 feet so you could see out, but that, because we're not an exit driveway, perhaps we'd be less than that, but we do have the fire hydrant, as you mentioned, which would be a limiting factor in terms of how close.
On the north side of the
Correct,
property.
correct.
On the south side of the property, different story.
Yep.
And then from a fire hydrant to the stripe, you need how many feet approximately?
I think it's 20 feet centered on the hydrant, I believe is what it is.
Montclair said 10, but.
Well, I mean that it's a 20-foot section. I think you need 10 feet on either end from the hydrant.
And then, so the only way I can see you getting a spot on there is if you did on the Talbot side, and you'd be right at numbers. Because on the Talbot side, I had 35 feet from fire hydrant to the Talbot's property line. And then you need 10 feet for the fire hydrant, plus 2 feet for the driveway, and the spot needs to be 23 feet. So you're up to 35 feet, which is what that side is. So you're pretty much maxing out there.
These are,
All right, well, I mean,
I was saying these are good questions about, would the applicant be agreeable to just do a layout of, I mean, if the testimony or if the intent is to provide 2 parking spaces, could they show the board how they're drawn? If it's, so we'll know if it's 1 or 2 or 0.
I'm assuming we could do that.
Yeah,
we could do it. Obviously,
right.
we don't have the jurisdiction to
No, not
enact
you,
it.
yeah, but I mean, just, but at least to, whether or not the township approves it, to show that with the dimensions that you're speaking about, that they work.
And the county too,
I think it's a reasonable request of the applicant.
Yeah, because I would presume that the most common variance you see here is a parking variance.
But we wouldn't have any ability, if there's parking proposed, this board, on the street, this board doesn't control that.
Okay.
But it would have to be, if it's being proposed as a part of the application as being available, we would like to know how it's drawn out so that it would be, I mean, I think Norberto might be probably the most capable of determining whether or not the spaces work on the street. Yeah.
We submitted an exhibit. Somebody just reminded me, I'm looking at my exhibit.
Oh, okay.
Street parking exhibit A23.
Oh, okay.
That might have been one of the colored things I gave you earlier, Janice. But you gave me today? No. Okay.
Is there the gentleman mentioned the hydrant? Is the hydrant shown on the?
I don't see the hydrant on A23. It's also very small.
Yeah, I didn't see the hydrant on the July 22nd plans either.
So if you
that might
can
be something
redo
that-
A23 in a larger
wasn't
font
delineated,
so we can read it.
It wasn't delineated.
I do see, the A23 was not prepared by my office. I do see a 10-foot call out, and I assume is from the hydrant before the parking spaces start. But I
Okay.
don't-
Thank you. I guess I'll make, does you not have that?
No, this doesn't look like it's the right location for that. That's more like over here.
Yeah.
But you're showing that.
Okay.
It has to be
I
approved.
can't see it.
Okay.
But we're showing that we can
Thank
get
you.
2 cars there and allow for the hydrant.
Okay.
So that's shown on what 823? Okay.
Yeah, so I'll ask, I don't know if I have this in digital format. Was this handed out? This might have been handed out at a meeting and not submitted digitally.
Yes, I think that's included. Those exhibits I gave you prior to, before tonight's meeting.
That you handed out to
From
me?
the prior meeting that were marked during the May 4th.
I thought this is just, oh, okay, there's more than one page.
I think it's the third page of that exhibit. Am I right?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Is that publicly available
Here's-
on the website?
No,
The-
here's A23.
This
Give me
was
one.
previously marked as A23?
Yes, it was previously marked to A23, but there were not.
I think you had it digitally, and I didn't have copies made in time for that meeting, but I handed them to Janice earlier tonight. And reminded them we had agreed to submit hard copies.
So what he's talking about is the third page here.
So I don't see the hydrant. Is the hydrant on this?
It's really tiny.
Is it
I see a
under the
10-foot
tree?
call out, and I think
Is it
that.
under the tree? No, it's it.
I think the 10-foot call out is from the center of the hydrant.
Oh, I see. There's a dimension there. So that the end of that dimension is where the hydrant is. Okay. Got it.
Oh, yeah. Just under the tree, is that what you're saying?
No, it's before that. It's there's a 10-foot. What he's saying is that that's the 10 feet that they require from the hydrant. Where the hydrant would be here. The invisible hydrant is 10 feet in front of the car. Could this just be redrawn so it's clear for the board and the public, so that, there's a big dot in terms of where
Well,
the...
I mean, it can be, but the point is, we think there's enough space. Ultimately, the
Okay.
county is going to have to approve it.
Oh, we understand.
But, I mean, if you wanted it enlarged, or, you can certainly do that.
And it appears that, are these 19-foot spaces?
Yeah, the dimensions of the spaces are missing as well.
Yeah, it's,
The vehicle is 19 feet, it fits between, but I was not the one who drew this, so I don't know what the actual dark lines are spaced at.
right,
But it's definitely more than 19.
okay.
My guess is somewhere between 20 and 22 is my guess.
It's 22?
22?
Okay, thank you.
County said 23, but what's a foot?
How about for the purposes of this board, we assume there's only one space that they can put there? And then, unless two is proven, there's one space, so that one space replaces the space that's taken away from the municipal lot to even, if all we're talking about is parking capacity, it's even. Or it's a +1 if it could be, if there's two.
And lastly, the width of the egress into the Upper Montclair Plaza apron is approximately how long? Or wide?
The aisle is 12 feet, going down towards the Upper Montclair lot.
So if you remove the bollards and that spill out the apron would be 12 feet?
I mean, we're rebuilding that area, so I don't know if it's a one-for-one, the exact opening is the same as...
It's approximately 12 feet.
It's yes, but it's aligned slightly different, but yes.
And it was in previous testimony, it was said that the existing stone wall would not be touched in any way in order to accommodate that egress.
That's probably a site engineer question, not parking
Okay.
engineer.
Are you aware of a telephone pole back there?
I believe there was some testimony previously about the telephone pole, but again, by the site engineer.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening. I'll try to be quick. I know it's getting late. I'm Rick Anlinger. I live at 190 Cooper Avenue. Been there 40 years, so I've seen this area regularly. I have a couple of questions. In the general sort of parking discipline, Are there standards for, how did you decide 5-minute walk? What's the area that's relevant for consideration of what could be available?
Typically, you'd look at a quarter mile as being a 5-minute walk. In this case, what we sought to do was not necessarily go a quarter mile into, let's say, residential neighborhoods, because we didn't want to take credit for potentially open spaces that would be encouraging people to necessarily park in the residential neighborhoods. So we limited our, scope, I would say, on Cooper Avenue to the Northview Avenue intersection and not beyond that. There clearly is parking spaces within a quarter mile along Cooper Avenue if you continued going on. We cut our study of capacity at Northview Avenue.
Okay, so there's let's say, a judgment call on what you figured was the relevant area.
Correct.
Okay. How many days of sampling would create a statistically significant sample? In other words, are 4 days, I think you chose portions of 4 days, is that right?
It was portions of 5 days that we did
Okay.
counts on. And again, we provided the analysis, and the board's own parking expert, I don't believe, had any issues with the days that we counted or the frequency of the counts. Obviously, if he indicated that he thought otherwise and didn't accept our study or needed more counts, we would have to, perform additional counts.
Okay. And did your surveyors who were out there and studying this, and now I'm looking at the parking lot directly behind the property here, did they notice that cars quite frequently leave the Talbot's side there and make a left turn and don't follow the circulation because it's only a little quick scoot around the building and you can get out by Starbucks?
I noticed it. I didn't speak to every single person who did the study, but I know from my experience in driving through there, I did notice that some people do the circle around and go out. Yeah.
And so I would just ask, would it be a concern then that people coming out of your parking lot would also, it's only 5 feet more, just make a left turn? So I wonder if that's a factor.
I think we could do a little more in that opening and driveway is a lot wider and more pavement. I think kind of encourages that movement a little bit more than I think the way that we've angled and narrowed our driveway kind of keeps them heading in the proper direction, going counterclockwise around the lot.
Okay. And did your survey people notice that quite frequently on St. James pickup and drop off, and here let's call it pickup because that's the end of the day more, there's illegal parking all up and right exactly across on Valley Road into the no-go zone for the fire department, kind of all the way along there. So just, did they notice that and note there's additional congestion there?
I mean, they did note that there were definitely time periods in which the number of parked cars exceed the legal spaces. That included along Valley Road and along Cooper Road. So again, they didn't identify the exact reason for it, but there definitely was periods of, more spaces, more cars parked than spaces available.
Okay. And how do you take into consideration the incentive for illegal parking, as in front of the post office, in front of Starbucks, an extra spot in front of Talbot's there, which seem to be full all the time?
So again, as part of our analysis, we're counting the overall demand. So if there were 6 cars parked in 5 spaces, we're utilizing the 6 number and trying to, somewhat finding a available space for them as part of our analysis of demand and supply. But in terms of where the space is located, again, we're not suggesting or promoting, that car continue to legally park in front of the post office. We may be, if there was an available space, further down Valley Road, in a legal spot, that would almost be accounted for down there. Like if we have an over demand that compared to the supply, we're carrying that demand in our charts. So there'd be a time period where the bar charts that shows 70 cars parked and only 68. But we're taking an overall demand for the whole region. So the 263 spaces that we studied, we're counting for that some of the areas have greater demand than supply and some of them may have less.
Okay. Would regular illegal parking imply that there was a shortage of parking?
Or a shortage of the most convenient parking spaces.
Right, okay, which happened to be right by this establishment?
Yes.
Okay, no further questions, thank you.
Hi, Justin Jesser, 120 Chestnut Street. I asked you before, and I want to kind of clarify something. So on the 5 days that you submitted, there was a question about religious holiday on one. There definitely was an early dismissal on the weekday. Out of curiosity, when you've worked with other townships, organizations, how do you determine that you have enough data that is of quality and that you can actually make a decision around?
Again, we picked days in May and October, which are, I would say, typically the seasons that you'd want to do the counts. You don't want to do it in, obviously, let's say December holiday time periods or in the summer when, there could be greater fluctuation, depending people away on vacations, things like that. Again, we provided 5 days of counts. We counted 2 different seasons. Your own expert, or the board's expert, sorry, not your expert, indicated those days seemed to be acceptable to him. Again, I believe that the days that we counted show, I would say, relatively useful data. I think the fact that I think the schools were out early on one of the days, sometimes you end up finding a lot more vehicles in a downtown when kids are out. People are doing activities in the town, so I don't think it's actually a bad thing to have that kind of variation. In addition, the days we counted would be days that our business would be open. So, we would be open on, I think it might have been the 3rd day or 2nd day of Sukkot, we would be open on that day. It wouldn't be a day that we would be closed. So that would be a normal business day for this business. So that was why we felt that was an appropriate day to count.
Got it. So the other question that I'd ask you is, when looking at a business district like this that has gone through significant change, at what point would you say, there's been too much change for this data to be reliable, or to be able to rely on that to make decisions such as big as this?
Yeah. And again, I'm not the one making the decision. We're the ones preparing the data. So,
which I assume that you've had people come to you say, we need to refresh this because the data is out of date, it's no longer relevant, the traffic flow has changed. At what point have they come to you in the past and said, we need to reconsider this?
Again, usually it becomes more of a time period. Hey, this is 3 years old. I think it was mentioned that you have 2016 data. That's pre-COVID, all these businesses. Again, so I don't think there's a hard and fast rule that says, but typically it becomes age. It becomes, this is 4 years old, this is 3 years old.
But not driven by businesses and increasing inflow.
I think that, I would say that what we're seeing here in terms of parking rates at 85-ish%, you're probably going to see that even going forward. What you may see is that parking gets pushed to other lots or further out areas. And I think that's what your own parking expert kind of indicated as well, is that, you rarely ever see 100% occupied parking lot. You end up seeing 90, and then people are just like, I'm just going to go find this other lot and park out here. And again, I think that is what you would see if you redid these counts, in September and October. You'd probably see around the same within our catchment area, and there may be more parked cars, that spill into Bellevue Lorraine lot or something like that.
Makes sense.
Or if people actually know you could park in Bellevue Erie, maybe on the weekends that starts filling up.
Okay. I appreciate it. I understand this is not an exact science. I think that the one last question I have is with regards to safety of children crossing the street and safety of kids traveling with parents in very crowded parking lots. I don't know if you were the expert on that can kind of speak to it, but I have little ones that I have to hold by the hand, and I'm more worried about them running, especially if they're excited to go swimming, than I am anything else. And so I don't know if you kind of looked at that as a safety or having a clear way of having the path, and is that still within that 5-minute walk?
So I think that the applicant has agreed, or they've designed an entrance also on Valley Road, so it doesn't mean everyone needs to basically come through the Upper Montclair Plaza lot. I would say the Upper Montclair Plaza lot does have a mix of, seems like, kid-friendly uses along with many other uses in there, so I don't think having children in that lot is atypical. But again, I'm not someone who could evaluate, I would say, personal safety or personal injury, but on a safety scale. But again, I do think the applicant, in having an extra access point on Valley Road, is trying to encourage people to be able to use that route, as well as if someone is parking in Upper Montclair Plaza lot, just like they do for the the other kids' facilities in there, that you get access from that point as well.
Thank you.
Jerry is here, yeah. Jerry, you prepared to present to the board based on past information or what you heard this evening? Thank you. Thanks.
Mr. Giosa, you recognize you remain under oath?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening. I just wanted to say that, based on my review of the subsequent report from Stonefield dated July 23rd, I just wanted to point out that the only real difference in the data presented in my previous report and the new report prepared by Stonefield was actually quite astutely picked up by members of the audience, and that is, I don't disagree with with what was presented in the Stonefield report. In fact, the graphs that Mr. Seckler presented from my review appear to be they're not incorrect, but I would say they're incomplete because they do not include these other categories of demand. We really got no plausible explanation about the location of where the employees are going to park, where whoever, they mentioned that it's the fire folks currently parking on the lot, but we don't know for sure who they are, but I do know that they are going to need some place to park. And I do believe that there was some testimony by one of the gentlemen from the fire department that said if they can park in that lot, they're going to end up on the street. So that's another 11 cars. And then, of course, the Bellevue Theater demand, which was not included in their peak weekday observation, which is another 35 cars. So if you add those up, that comes to 56 cars that were not included in their demand numbers. So when they're hanging their hat on an excess capacity of 17 cars in the 263 space catchment area, that 17 excess capacity is rather thin in my estimation. So when you're talking about the possibility of adding another 56 on top of that, I think, again, and to reiterate my previous testimony and what one of the members of the public picked up today, I do see a parking deficit in that in the 263 space catchment area. So that's pretty much the only thing I wanted to clarify and mention to the board, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Give us your thoughts on the Bellevue Erie lot. I know it's not, that's a big part of the capacity that's being put. You've heard us discuss what is capacity. Is it permitted or not? That's a question too. Do you have any advice in terms of what could be done to solidify what the true capacity of that lot is?
Okay, I think that the big picture on the Bellevue Erie lot, in my mind, is not necessarily the capacity, because the applicant is not really relying on any capacity in that lot during their weekday peak. They've already recognized that that lot is essentially going to be full.
So the charts don't include?
Oh, no, they do, but they're not really relying on any excess capacity in that lot to accept their employees or students or customers on a peak weekday, because the lot is essentially full.
I'm not following, so I apologize. They're not relying on, well, it's in the number, 60 available cars are in that compose a part of that gold line, which is a determining factor of whether or not we're parked to capacity or not. So if available parking, if that line comes down, because if it's true that there aren't 60 cars available 60 spaces, I'm sorry, in that lot, that line comes down, doesn't it? That gold line, it gets closer to the top of the,
Well, the applicant has chosen to use almost the same color blue. It's hard to see how much capacity they're relying on during the week. I believe, the applicant was talking about just a handful of spaces possibly available in that lot during the week.
I thought that was the demand. I thought that all the colors mean the demand. How many cars are actually parked there? And when you're counting cars in that lot, you're counting permits, but you're counting people that are going on the train.
But what we're concerned about is the number of spaces available in that lot where we could put demand. They're saying that there's virtually no spaces available in that lot during the week.
Because I can't see the numbers. The blue says 60. I can't, even on what we have, we can't see the numbers too easily.
Do you want me to just clarify, since I'm right up against the screen?
Okay, is the Bellevue lot light blue or dark blue?
The Bellevue Erie lot is the lighter blue lines.
Okay.
So, for instance, I think we said there's 68 spaces.
Yeah.
At 440, 67 of them were occupied.
Okay.
Before that, 420 is actually 69. There was an illegally
Okay,
parked
so-
car, 68. So what, Chairman, you're saying, what would happen is the gold line would come down, but also you would remove this whole part of the demand from the bar chart. So basically, you would bring the top down 68 spaces and then bring it down this bar chart 67
Okay.
spaces, or this one's 69. So the excess capacity, again, if there is any, is basically unchanged because they're going to move down together during the weekday. Weekend is when this line gets very, very tiny, and that actually is one of the main reasons why there's a gap in the data. Jerry, does that help explain that on your end?
So I think that, from my perspective, that sums up kind of what is being modeled for a weekday. Now, the weekend is a different story, the Saturday condition. Their model is relying heavily on the Bellevue Erie lot to accept demand from the proposed project. And I wanted to point out something in my report of June 22nd, and that was about Saturday parking. During their Saturday count on October 4th, there was one open parking, at the peak period, which was 11:40 a.m. There was one open parking space in the Upper Montclair Plaza lot, one open space in the Bellevue lot, and a net of 0 open spaces on the local streets within 800 feet of the site. As a result, they're really relying on most of that excess capacity in the Bellevue Erie lot to accept the demand that's going to be generated. And I also pointed out that the cost of those spaces is going to be $5.35 for 8 hours of parking, which is permitted by Park Mobile. So again, the choice between $5.35 for 8 hours of parking, 800 to 1,000 feet away from SwimQuest, weighed against the possibility of parking for free in the neighborhood, led to my conclusion that the local residential streets are going to be put under pressure as a result of this project, if accepted as proposed. So it's not only the weekday peak condition; it's also the Saturday, which I see as being problematic in terms of the pressure that it will apply to the neighborhood.
Would you be able to jot these down on a piece of paper?
It's all in my report.
Oh, you?
Yep.
Oh, you're just okay,
This
so
is
the
all in
points
my
you're making were in your June report?
Correct.
Okay, you're just reiterating, okay, I
Yep.
see, okay. So there's nothing that you heard today that would cause you to change what you stated before about that? Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, I just wanted to point out the difference between the applicant's graph and the graph that I had in my report.
Thank you. If Jerry is through, members of the audience can question Jerry as well? Okay, I think, how about that? Do
Okay.
any members of the public have, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Any members of the board have questions for
I
Jerry?
just have one question. You mentioned that the applicant's counts did not take into account the Bellevue Theater being open, but isn't it true that the May counts did reflect were done after the theater was open?
I believe so, but however, when you're doing a parking study and doing modeling, you typically go by the peak observation, the peak condition that was noticed, and then when you solve for the peak, you solved for pretty much all conditions. And the peak was observed in that October count of 2025, which was less than a year ago, so the data is still relevant. And so, you know, from my position, we consider that, you know, the peak count.
Thank you.
Any members of the public have questions for the township's traffic engineer? Parking consultant, sorry.
Jane Hansen, Marion Road. Just a quick question. Do you have any thoughts on the issue of circulation within the Upper Montclair Plaza parking lot with 10 cars exiting the site every half hour?
And I'm sorry, that's out of my area of expertise.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I think we're good. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Giosa, thank you. I may be barking up the same tree, but when you were doing these studies, did you encounter anyone, when your people were doing these studies, did you encounter anyone doing what a previous resident had mentioned, which was cutting through different streets to avoid traffic on Valley in pursuit of parking, or in fact, something that I've experienced, people in the lot behind the proposed school going the wrong way to avoid or to grab a spot that they may see being open?
We did not perform any independent parking counts. We were basically reviewing the data that was submitted by the applicant.
So you were looking at spots versus people in pursuit of spots and what they might do that might be dangerous in the pursuit of those spots?
I did personally make a site visit just to understand the site conditions and the various lots and streets, but I did not personally witness the condition you just described.
Okay, thanks.
But it was just for a short period of time that I was.
Thanks. Thank you.
Holly Felber, Barbara Eclectic. I love your term junk traffic. How much junk traffic did you observe when you visited the site?
We didn't count the amount of junk traffic, but we did notice there was some of the effect occurring at the time. But we did not make any counts.
Okay. Okay. And where did you park that day?
I parked in the Bellevue lot.
Okay. Did you use Park Mobile?
I did.
Okay. I think that's my only question. We consistently have people say, the only reason I stopped in your store is because there was a spot open in front. So I really hope we have enough spots to support our existing businesses and to welcome new businesses, because we have a wonderful town and we have wonderful customers. We just have to be sensitive to that. Thank you.
Thank you. With respect to this application, I know we have other items on the agenda. Should we go through, we'll hopefully be making a decision on September 14th. Obviously, the planner is coming in then. Should we give the applicant, kind of go through what we did ask the applicant to present a couple of things. Should we just clarify what that list of things is that we would?
I would say that Mr. Trembulac, being Mr. Trembulac, probably has a list and knows what it is that the board is looking for.
Well, I'm not sure.
Well, I do know we talked about
Dividing the driveways.
redesign for
Right.
the driveway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, right,
Right.
and there's going to be a meeting, hopefully.
Right.
so,
Right.
We'll work on
hopefully
that.
Something will come from that.
Where the tree in front is going to be a stripe, where the
We're
stripe.
going to try to get information regarding relocation of the tree,
And replacing the cherry laurel with a non-invasive species.
which we've agreed to do. I don't know, you want to know the exact species? I mean, you know,
It hadn't changed on the site plan.
Yeah.
but that
That was all I noticed.
would be a condition if the,
That works for me.
Whether you need a permanent easement for the Upper Montclair lot.
which we would agree to provide either before or after approval. Try to see if I can nail that down before in the next month. I think we've already given the parking exhibit showing the, capacity for 2 spaces on Valley Road. I don't recall anything else. Looking
That's
through
all
my
I have.
Janice mentioned that stop sign, but I didn't know how we resolved that.
Oh, that's a simple change.
Right, right. I was
You're
just
relocating
going
the
through my
s-
notes.
the Stop, thank you. The stop sign by the stop
I mean,
bar.
if the board wants it, we'll provide it, Yes.
We just don't want to forget those details.
Is that it? Okay. Well then, with respect to parking, the board has received, I would assume, all the questions, not comments, but questions and evidence we've heard from Mr. Giosa. I'll just leave it open. If the applicant feels that they need to supplement any parking, it's your choice. But I think the board, we have what we're going to get, I guess, on parking at this point. So I guess this application can be continued to September 14th, correct?
Let's make sure of that
Correct.
date.
Yeah, that's the date.
It is
Second
15.
Monday.
14th.
14th.
September 14th.
So September 14th, 2026, at 7 p.m., no further notice will be given to the public of the continuation of this application. I assume, Mr. Trembulac, that the applicant will continue the board's.
Consent to extending for this time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No new business. Any committee reports?
I don't think we have any committee reports. We have had 3 of our 4 meetings to talk about the master plan reexamination report. We've had about 45 members of the public attend those meetings, and the last one is this Wednesday at the library at 6:30, if anybody wants to
Tomorrow.
join us. Okay? What I anticipate is at the next meeting, the August, let me look at my notes here, the August 17th meeting, I'll distribute to the board all of the notes from the meetings and the comments that we've received. And we can start the distillation process of putting together the reexamination report. I have a draft, I just want to share with you what we've heard. Okay?
And did I miss the bills in the packet, or were there no bills this time?
There are no bills.
So okay. Then.
If you want to pay me, it's okay.
Oh, very Very good. Okay, then, anyone like
I
to?
just want to point out that I will not be here for the September meeting, so.
Ah,
Nobody has ever done that. Usually it's like, good.
Yeah.
very
Motion
good.
to adjourn?
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 10:20.